Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We're on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, go ahead and leave a 5-star review. I'm doing stand-up, hopefully in a city near you. August 12th, I'm going to be performing at Bird and Betty's in Beach Haven, New Jersey, and then heading to New Orleans to perform 4 shows at the Comedy House, August 13th and 14th. That's out in New Orleans. And then I'm going to Vegas with Comedians of the Compound. We're going to do 4 shows September 10th and 11th in the Plaza Hotel at the Comedy Works Club over there. And then I'm heading back to Texas September 17th and 18th, headlining Hyenas in Dallas. That'll be 4 shows out there. And then Comedians of the Compound will be in Lakewood, New Jersey on October 16th at the Blue Claw Stadium. Then I'm heading out to California, October 22nd and 23rd, doing 4 shows at the Broadway Comedy Club West out there in Santa Monica, and maybe some, who knows, LA things. Maybe I'll check out their Homeless. It's going to be great. Quick shout out to this episode's sponsor, Cushy Dreams. They're my go-to for all things CBD. I feel like it's helped me a lot with my anxiety. I much prefer to go with something a little bit more natural. They do high quality CBD in tins here, and also they do these pre-rolls, which I love. They come in this 5-pack, very chic. Just throw it in your pocket, throw it in your purse. Everything is hand trimmed, never machine done. The quality is super. And there's different indica sativa blends like relax, create, peace, energy, dream, hustle. So whatever you want to do with your day, Cushy Dreams has you covered. Join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. You can enjoy all the health benefits of CBD without getting high. There's under like 0.3% THC in here. So you're not gonna get the munchies, you're not gonna get weird or anything like that. Go to cushydreams.com. That's KUSHY dreams.com and use promo code CMP at checkout. You're gonna get 20% off your whole order, and every order, not just your first. I'm already seeing the chat go nuts. I feel like there's going to be some fun comments today. I'm really excited to have this guy on the podcast. He's a political analyst. He's got a wonderful YouTube channel, actually 2 YouTube channels. He just started another one that is going to be pretty hilarious. I think it's kind of like a fun take on his original one. Guys, welcome to the show, Mister Reagan. Good to have you.
Chrissy, hello.
You're so professional and polished.
Yes, well, I put on a fake professional voice. In reality, I don't talk like this at all. You and I met in Las Vegas at a big like party event for YouTubers set up by our friend Elijah Schaefer.
When we say that, it sounds so pretentious, but really,
it's not pretentious. It's real. That's really what happened.
It was really our life, and yeah, it was great. It was like the best networking. Yeah, I hardly would call myself like an influencer. I'm trying to do good and facilitate conversations. But yeah, it was so great. I met you, met Gary Franchi, who was just on an episode, met James Klug, who was on an episode. So
yeah, James Klug's an awesome guy. Yeah. There's a lot of really cool guys that were there. John's awesome. Yeah, John Doyle. Yeah, so many cool people were there, and Sydney, everybody there was really great, and people got a lot more drunk than you would expect them to for conservatives. Some of them were libertarian.
Yeah. I feel like maybe it's just like getting older, but I become in a drinking situation, like I kind of become the mom. Like if I see somebody get drunk before my eyes, and like, is that a cat?
Yeah, I have a Bengal. Never get a Bengal if you have a 1-room. I have like a loft apartment. He's like a tiger. You want to jump?
Do you own a large cat?
He's not that big, but he's very beautiful and very expensive. I'm allergic to cats, so I couldn't buy a cat. But my wife wasn't working, and I felt like I was neglecting her. So I thought, well, I'll get you an animal of some kind. I knew she liked cats, so we spent an obscene amount of money on this cat. Hey, buddy, you want up? You want to say hi to the people?
What makes this better than just a cat off the street? Does it do tricks?
Okay,
is it
Oh, nothing. Oh, no. He's terrible. I'm trying to get him in camera here. He's. You can see what he looks like. He's kind of got these kind
what's
of
his name? Oh my God, he hates.
He's kind of got
it.
these like spots.
He hates being on camera.
He likes being on. He likes his voice on camera. Apparently, they're very loud. They're unbelievably loud. Yeah, and very expensive. But we love him. But he's a bit difficult when I'm trying to do live streams.
He's heckling you for sure.
He's heckling me. Yeah. I bought it for the wife, but I didn't realize exactly how loud these cats were.
Imagine your cat is just like a huge lib and like is infiltrating, trying to infiltrate your YouTube channel and just like
a Chinese spy, clearly.
Yeah, he's a Chinese. Your cat's a Chinese spy and he's trying to fuck up all your videos.
Yeah.
I would believe it.
So we didn't know each other until Vegas. We met in Vegas at this really cool thing. Which shout out to Elijah Schaefer. That was awesome. He's on The Blaze. If you don't know him, slightly offensive. Great show. He's
doing a new show with Sydney Watson. I think it's called You Are Here. I know they're getting the set together. I'm not sure when it starts, but that's amazing.
That's right. Yeah. Sydney's a really good friend of mine as well. So that's very cool. But so he set that whole thing up and we met and I didn't know you and you didn't know me. Like we didn't know of each other at all. And you're like, hey, let's do a show. I'm like, well, I'm in Hawaii for a month. I went to Hawaii for a month because you saw me in Vegas. It was a disaster.
You were like, I'm in Hawaii because I got fat. I'm like, you didn't look fat at all. You looked great.
No,
you looked fine.
I got morbidly obese over the last couple of years. Because this job, YouTube, by the way, I'd never seen your show before. So when you told me to do this show, I was like, all right, but I want to watch previous episodes. And my gosh, you are like the female Joe Rogan.
Stop
You're
it.
hustling out here. No, your shows are so good. I'm like, God, this woman's a hidden gem.
I'm going to clip this and masturbate to it later.
No, it is. Your show is a hidden gem. It's really good. And you get such low numbers for such a good show. And I'm just like, this is a tragedy. Like this, that's not right. Tragedy, travesty. Travesty is usually what they call these things, right? An injustice.
What's the difference between a tragedy and a travesty?
We'll have to look it up. I'm pretty sure travesty is like an injustice.
Yeah, I think tragedy is like someone probably died.
Yeah. Something bad happens. Yeah.
A travesty be like, that's true. That like if you were to describe a terrible movie, or like it's a travesty.
You could probably describe it as both. We'll talk about bad movies here on this episode, by the way, because anyway, I'll get into that in a minute, my origin story, because I am, as you know, a superhero. But no, we met in Vegas and you asked me to come on the show. So I watched your show and I didn't really know anything about you or anything really. So I watched a few episodes of your show. It's almost all porn stars.
Wait, which one? Wet Spot?
I guess maybe the recent episodes, but I'm like, so I'm just going through, I'm watching, every episode you've done recently. And I'm like, why is it all porn? So let me flip the tables on you, Chrissie Mayr. So how did you get into the porn industry?
Rent was due and a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do.
Girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. No, but how do you, like, what is that? What is the story there? Like, why is it that you're interviewing all these porn stars?
My interest in them started with my other show on Compound Media. I had been doing like bit parts on other shows on Compound Media, like just as characters. And actually my wig is going to arrive soon. So I'm well overdue to do a Jen Psaki. So I have to put together.
Oh yeah, you did good. You did good for that.
And I'm just like, nobody's doing it. SNL has not. They're pussies. So I had to try.
It's weird, really, because it's ripe for material. Yeah.
She's like not that the most interesting, but like she deserves it at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
So I started just doing bit parts on the show called In Hot Water, and then I realized like, okay, there's nothing like kind of female on the network, like mostly male subscribers, which is great. It makes sense because they tend to be smarter. But I was like, oh, there's nothing like fluffy. There's no like soft subjects on this network. So I pitched like a sex, dating, relationship advice panel show.
Wow.
And there, Mornin has one female co-host, but I was like, there's nothing like that's entirely like female led or whatever. And so I wanted it to be it was kind of inspired by like old school Howard Stern. I loved how he would have like porn stars in studio and they would do like just crazy remote segments, and maybe they'd like flash people, or I don't know, like just kind of wild at like a party kind of vibe. I really wanted to do something like that because it's it's like a private subscriber network. Like you can see nudity, you can see crazy stuff, like it's free speech, you can say whatever you want. So I was like, oh, how much fun could we possibly have here? And then the show was picked up 2 years ago. And then January of 2020, when I decided to start my own separate podcast. And then I went to the AVN Awards in Vegas. All the best times happen in Vegas.
Well, you had all these contacts already.
Some, yeah, just through like reaching out. And honestly, I think it helped being a woman because I don't have the creep factor. There are so many like male porn journalists that enter like this sort of arena, and I can only imagine like, and I've seen so many videos of these guys. They come off like such creeps, and the questions they ask are like, "How wet does your pussy get?" And it's like, this is not journalism.
That's my first question.
And a lot of them, I'm sure, like wouldn't be mad if they ended up hooking up with somebody they were interviewing. So I was just like,
no, you're right. Yeah. Well, this is why I've always found photographers to be total creeps.
Yes.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. Like I was in school for graphic design. This is after I went to school for filmmaking and stuff. I went to school for graphic design, and there was a guy there for photography that was there for photography, and he was always interviewing models. He was like this nerdy little Asian guy, and he tried to always dress cool. And he was, and I was pretty popular at the school for whatever reason.
Were you a popular kid in high school?
Oh, definitely not. No,
okay.
No.
All right.
I was a hated. I was the marginalized person that Black lesbians pretend to be.
Oh, wow.
I mean, think about how popular lesbians are. Everybody loves a lesbian.
No one, yeah.
But nobody liked me. No. I had no friends until like junior, senior year. Then I became very, very sort of well known. Weirdly, actually, what was weird was my car broke down once, and I had to take the bus home from school one day. And this girl turned to me on the bus. She goes, "Hey, Chris, can I ask you something?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" She goes, "What is it like that wherever you go, everybody knows who you are?"
And you're like, "Okay."
And I was like, "I'm a high school student. What the hell are you talking about?" But to some people, I don't know. To some people at the school, I was sort of known.
You had star quality even back then.
Yeah, it was a weird thing. It was difficult to get from one side of the school to the other without getting a lot of people approaching me and stuff. And so it was like a Ferris Bueller thing, because I wasn't popular in the conventional sense. Like I wasn't part of the cool kid clique or anything like that.
Interesting.
But I became sort of well known. Yeah. I was popular,
magnetic,
in a more sort of like, dictionary definition sense, as opposed to
you were the people's student. Yeah,
I was kind of. Yeah. I would say that's true. Yeah. If I had faked being sick and gone to a baseball game, there would have been a sign that said "Save Chris."
Were you like?
If anybody gets that
giving
reference.
off class president, homecoming king vibes. Were you either of those things?
Oh no. See, that's what I'm saying. I was not popular. I was not popular in the conventional sense. But then college was better. Like college was much better. Like. I had kind of figured out how to talk to women at that point. And so, oh man, I was very aggressive. You
were aggressive with women?
Oh, very aggressive. Like to the point where I think I would probably have like lawsuits at this point.
Ooh.
if I were like a powerful person, but I was just some like loser college kid, so it didn't matter. But like I would grab, this is a terrible thing to admit, but like girls would hang out in my dorm room a lot. And so if I was sitting at the computer, University of Miami.
Oh, wow. Miami. That's fun.
It wasn't as good as you would think it was. It was terrible.
Not like it is now where they're out there humping ambulances. It wasn't like that.
No. Well, University of Miami is a bunch of like kind of like rich, dumb party kids from like the Northeast of America. I just went there for film school, which is, by the way, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like 17, 16 applying for schools.
Nobody does.
And I ended up going to film school and in Miami. It's like, no, if you're going to go to film school, you have to go to USC or UCLA maybe, but USC is really the only one that you should go to. but I didn't know that, so I went to University of Miami, which is a huge waste of money. But yeah, I used to just grab some girl that was in my room if I was sitting at the computer and talking to like a room full of people, just grab one of them and just sit them on my lap for the 20 minutes.
That's hot.
Yeah, they
really
loved
like
it.
that.
Well, it's weird because you do it kind of as a joke. You do certain things in life as a joke, just messing around with people, and you realize that some things actually work better than you think. Sort of like people think it's cool. Yeah. And so,
especially if you're like not ugly and you're kind of like this good personality or like kind of magnetic, you're not, but like not in a threatening, like rapey way. And then you do make that move. Like a lot of girls are going to be into that because girls are like, especially at that age, like dying, even like their whole lives, girls are like dying for the guy to make them move. So
yeah, no, you're 100% right. I that's kind of probably when I figured out, because I did figure something out about being aggressive with women at some point. I don't know when I really figured this out. Maybe it was in high school, but this thing where like when you're a boy, when you're a young man, a teenager, 13, 14, 15, you're watching movies about guys trying to get with girls, and the girls basically like, get away from me, creep. This is all in movies. This is what you see all the time. So you're kind of worried about being aggressive because you think that's going to happen. But then at some point you realize that exactly the same thing can be done by a hot guy or a guy the girl likes for whatever reason. It doesn't necessarily have to be hot, but a guy the girl likes and a guy the girl doesn't like, and they'll be perceived as romantic on the one hand and then totally creepy on the other. But it's the exact same thing that the guy's doing. So whenever I hear girls complain, especially famous women in interviews or something, say, "Oh, this guy was so creepy," I kind of cringe a little bit because I think, well, maybe he was creepy, but maybe he was a great guy, and you're just a horrible person.
Yeah, I think one woman's creepy is another woman's like dreamboat,
Yeah.
And I think that's where we went all wrong with trying to like socialize or soften like the modern man.
Oh, feminize,
right? Not
We're trying to feminize men.
Yeah, it was the wrong move to like try to take away. I don't mean like being aggressive. What's a better word? Being direct, like
being masculine.
Being masculine, like to take that away, that's wrong. I think if we're going to add anything, maybe focus on like cues, body language, like how charming are you? Like what are you picking up on vibes? Like that's the thing to amplify, not to stop being masculine, like making those moves, putting yourself out there. Because now we have like a generation of young men who are afraid to talk to girls because they think they might be Me Too'd, and it's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a friend of mine who's like, "Can you talk to my 15-year-old son? Like he's afraid of being Me Too'd." And but then he was also like, "Can you set him up with one of your porn star friends?" And I'm like, "This is not the way. This is not how we do this."
Oh, I love it. I love that. Yeah. Porn star friends. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's
how it came to be. So I would find, and through doing the wet spot and having porn stars on the show, some would be very chatty and great sense of humor and sharp and witty and be able to keep up with the tempo of comedians. And that is like a home run if you can find.
Yeah, that's one thing that was actually quite shocking as I'm watching your interviews. Some girl named Elsa, she's like 22
Elsa
or
Jean.
something.
Yeah, she's the best.
Elsa, yeah. And I just thought, this girl's 22 years old and she's really smart. And I don't know at what point, there may be a point which she regrets what she's doing.
She's definitely under 30. I don't know if she's like, I may have said 22, but maybe
I think
like
you said 22. Yeah, I don't
20,
know. I don't
like,
know. Yeah, whatever. Right.
She's definitely like younger than 29 for sure.
Yeah. But she's just seemed like, she had her stuff together. She kind of knew what she was doing. She like owned her own business. I was just like, this girl's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. The one thing about pornography that is a little bit of a sketchy area in my mind is that, you've got women who are sort of controlling their destiny like her, but then you've got other women who I think are exploited massively. And that's kind of how I've always thought of most of the women in pornography, but certainly you had a couple of like conservative porn stars on
Brandy
as well.
Love. Yeah. What's her name? Eva Lovia. We had her on when she was kicked out of Turning Point.
You had two women on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just thought it's called a three-way. Yeah. And they were just so smart. And I just thought, man, like, I just haven't watched enough interviews with porn stars, apparently. Like
Well, that's
these
that's
girls
what's
are.
cool. That's why I
Yeah.
like facilitating these conversations, because a lot of people on the right and Christian
Yeah.
conservatives, I understand. Like you have your morals, you have your religion. You're not about that life, but it's important but I think the average bear is sort of like willing to consider everything, and it's important to see like many examples of like smart, thoughtful, compassionate, like women who happen to also do porn. And it's not like they shouldn't be branded with that forever, although it is kind of like the one of the only jobs in which you are kind of branded for life, which is speaks to your point about how easy it is to take advantage of certain women, because it's like you're not going to just like dabble in porn and then go like be an assistant at a hedge fund. Like it's just there's
Well,
not
you
gonna
and I are
be.
YouTubers, we're like one step away from porn star. I mean, that's
And also, like being a comedian, you get a little bit of a stamp too, and
is
it's
that right?
something. It is something that you like if you are sort of in the day job world. You either like from people that I've spoken to, they're either kind of out about it and they get sort of
What?
chastised from their
Wait, what are
coworkers.
you talking about?
What do you
What
mean?
are you talking about?
I'm talking about
Comedians?
comedians who
No,
may at one time also have day jobs. They have to either
no,
be out
no.
about it
Everybody is
or they
impressed
hide them.
about.
You know.
Okay, but I don't understand how like that's a bad thing. Like everybody is impressed by a comedian.
No, this is where regular people are, but like
Okay.
comedians that work for someone else, it's a huge
Oh, you
detriment.
mean they? Okay, so you're saying that they're a comedian with a corporate job and they just do like
Or
a
they're
open mic
or
nights or
they're a
something like that.
babysitter or a dog walker. But yeah, I've known so many comics who also like just try to have a job, and it's
Yeah,
like
Will Ferrell was apparently like a corporate guy before he became. Like
yeah.
could you
And the
imagine?
idea of it like seems cool, like, but I've just from the conversations I've had, it's like 9 times out of 10, it's a detriment, and it's
Because for
something.
most people, they can't make a living being a comedian, is what you're saying. I mean, that's when that situation crops up. I
Right.
imagine.
And
Yeah.
people, and at some point some people just make the jump. Like I know a guy who quit his day job and then the pandemic hit and then he ended up
Mm.
like getting another day
Oh
job. Like
man,
the
yeah,
goal is to
that's
not need it. But it's tricky, and like we all have to do what we have to do to like make a living. But
well,
it's
funny
interesting.
people, comedians specifically. Like, okay, so I live in LA. Okay, I'll briefly give you some of my origin story. So I'm out here in
Yes, I want to
LA.
hear the origin
Okay,
story.
you want to let's get into the origin story. Fine. So I moved to LA in I think about 2010. I literally moved here the day after my brother got married. My brother got married, and I had packed my car full of stuff, driven to his wedding, stayed at the hotel that night, got in the car in the morning, and drove to LA. And I've been here ever since. And I had been in LA once before. For a little while, and I worked on a TV show called the George Lopez Show. I don't know if you
Oh
remember that. She was like
yeah.
a sitcom. I was a PA, and so I met a bunch of industry people there. And you want to hear a little bit of a Hollywood rumor from
Yes.
2005?
Always.
10-year-old rumors or whatever it is. 15-year-old rumors. Yeah, so that show was incredibly racist, like incredibly racist. George Lopez essentially did not want anyone who was working on the show to be white. He wouldn't allow people
Wow.
to be
Which
hired who were white.
he was really ahead of his time.
He was really
back
progressive.
then.
Yeah. He was really progressing this left-wing thing. So they didn't hire me specifically. I was told specifically I wasn't hired because I was white when I interviewed for that show. And then some like Hispanic guy got the job, but he left the show like unexpectedly after like 2 weeks. So they had to bring in like the next best person. So they just brought me in, even though I'm white.
They're like, could you go tanning a little bit before we bring you in?
I know, yeah. Well, I just been back from Hawaii, so I look okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I went to Hawaii. I went to Hawaii for a month to get better fit because, and I do look better. I feel like I look better. I feel better anyway, which I think is the most important thing. But anyway, so I meet George Lopez, and back then I was very skinny and more handsome. And so I meet George Lopez, and he kind of looks me up and down. He's an ugly man. I don't know if you know George Lopez. He's not a good-looking guy.
Let me look him up.
Yeah, he's hideous. So he like looks me up and down, and he goes, "What's up with the man candy?" That was his line. "What's up with the man candy?" And I mean, I was like 24, 25, something, and I just turned to the other guy. I'm like, "What the hell is man candy?" He's like, "It's kind of a compliment. Just go with it." Like,
So
all
you
right.
can't have anybody around you that looks better than you. See, look at George Lopez. Looks like a guy who's trying to look hot. Like, look, he's got the
Well, he's
hair
you can see the
gel,
money. You
the
can see the
fake
money helping him
teeth.
out.
Yeah.
But you can look what he looked like in his
He's got
earlier
He's got a
days.
rough face. He's got a face like a
He's got a
baseball
rough
glove.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's he's looking a little bit more dapper these days. He's got the suits and the ties and
Smoothed out. Yeah.
yeah. He's a rich ugly guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't mind saying that about George Lopez because basically George Lopez used to cheat on his wife with like prostitutes, right? And his wife gave him like her liver or something, or her kidney. Yeah, because he had some kind of medical condition. Wow. So the wife came in, saved the day, and then he divorced her and was just dating. Yeah, it was horrible.
He took her liver and left her?
Yes. It was either the liver or the kidney. I'm not sure which one. I don't know. What do you transplant? You transplant both, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think you transplant anything. You could transplant a face.
Well, I'm transplanting your face on mine if you die ever, madam.
Aw.
That's beautiful. Look at that. I want that, what you got. That was a really bad attempt at a compliment.
While you're petting your cat.
Well, yes.
Like you're like a villain. You're like a comic book villain.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's my origin story. Maybe it's not superhero at all.
Okay, so you're working for George Lopez. He's cheating on his wife with prostitutes.
Yes.
She then, overlooks that, gives him her liver.
Yeah.
And then he leaves.
Yeah. So okay. So I kind of got close with the daughter on the show. She's a little bit younger than me, but anyway. So what ended up happening she got kicked off the show because she was white. They found out she was white. When they hired her, they thought that she was like Hispanic because her name's Maciela, right? And then they were like, "Oh no,
Italian."
Well, she's Albanian. She's Albanian.
Okay,
turns out.
Same thing.
And but they thought she was like Mexican or something. And then she gets the show, and they found out she's not Mexican. And like George Lopez was furious, and he was always irritated about this. And so like the last season of the show or something, they like fired her and brought in a Mexican girl because they wanted the whole cast to be like the first all Hispanic cast. I know,
so they could get like written up.
Yeah, so they could like make it into the history books or something. I mean, it was like there was very few people who were like lower level employees that were white. I mean, obviously you had a lot of grips and stuff like that, but and the production people, the directors and everything. But yeah, it was. I mean, that was kind of my introduction into Hollywood because I was working in Warner Brothers, and you would meet amazing people like George Clooney and stuff. We had an office right across from us, so. Clint Eastwood had a office across from mine, but I only saw him once. He was driving up and this is in 2015, I think. He's driving up in his old Cadillac or whatever, and he looked just like a scarecrow. He looked so frail. I thought he's going to die, but man, he's still doing it. Clint Eastwood's still rocking and rolling.
If you saw him just for a moment, then was he being like a Clint tease?
No, he was in his car.
Okay,
a Clint.
A Clint
is
tease.
Is that like CUNT tease? Is that like a joke? That was a terrible joke, Chrissy. That's
Clint
embarrassing.
tease.
That's not material you should be using on your show.
I'm not. I'm going to use it here, and then I'll never say it again.
And then I'll never say it.
In fact, I'm editing it out.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. You should be my friend Kurt. He loves puns. It's like his whole shtick is puns.
They say puns at the lowest level of comedy, and I just disagree. I couldn't disagree more.
Alfred Hitchcock actually has an amazing quote where he makes a pun. The guy goes, "Oh, I see you like all kinds of horror," and and he goes, oh, "Puns are the highest form of comedy," or something like that. Highest form of literature, I believe he says.
Okay,
I'll find it for you. I'll send it to you.
Good. I'm glad he agrees with me.
But anyway, yeah, that was my introduction to Hollywood. Was this like very racist against white people, hostile atmosphere. And I came here to try to write scripts. I'm a writer at heart, although I haven't really sold anything, so I don't know if I can call myself a writer. But that's my whole thing is like I was obsessed with like Twilight Zone as a kid, and I figured out how to make like stories like Black Mirror or Twilight Zone stories. I'm really good at writing endings. This is why I hate J.J. Abrams, because J.J. Abrams is pretty good on the concept side. He can come up, here's a kind of a cool idea, but he doesn't think through how that should end. So all of his projects, if you watch any J.J. Abrams thing, from like Lost to any of his movies, any of the
Lost
Star
was a great
Trek
idea.
movies,
A lot of people were upset over the ending, and I just was like,
because he doesn't think through his endings. He goes, here's a great concept, and then he just sort of like vomits up a script, And he goes, how's it going to end? I don't know. Bleh. You know, he doesn't think it through. And you really, if you're a great writer, if you want to take a good project and make it great, you after you come up with a concept, then you write the ending. That's the next thing you write, because then you have something to write to. And if you don't have anything to write to, you don't have a conclusion to write to. That, you know, and by the way, when I say concept, if it's like something with like a villain or whatever, that you obviously have to flesh out the villain and you have to flesh out the main character. You have to know what all these elements are. Then you write the ending. Then you write all the elements of the film or whatever it is to get to the ending. That's how I write anyway. And to me, that always allows you to have an ending that's sort of like mind blowing and unexpected in a good way, not in a, you know, Star Wars, you know, just let's subvert expectations by completely ruining your favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, a lot of people have a bone to pick for him on that.
I love subvert expectation. I love that idea, but not like, oh, it's a Star Wars movie. Let's just throw away lightsabers. Let's just throw away lightsabers. It's like, well, it's a major part of the franchise. Like, let's just kill off Han Solo. Let's just kill off Luke Skywalker. It's like, yeah, you're subverting our expectations, but in a very disappointing way. So subverting expectations, Rian Johnson gave that concept a bad taste because he's doing it poorly. But actually subverting expectations is a good thing to do to the audience, but just in a good way.
Not when you're like fucking with kind of like legacies and stories and nostalgia and
yeah, it's what my friend calls cultural vandalism. My friend Kurt called it cultural vandalism.
That's perfect. Yeah.
And
if Twilight Zone was one of your earliest inspirations, of course you're kind of like almost like inspired to like do storytelling the right way.
Oh yeah, actually, when I watched that when I was like 13, I had already been writing for a long time, or trying to write stories, trying to write novels, things like that. And it occurred to me that if I could write as well as the writers from the 1960s who are writing these amazing shows, I could write better than anyone alive. Right? Because like I was watching these in like 1993. And I thought, well, there are good writers in 1993, but nothing like this. Like, this is genius. And so I really focused on that. And I did become good at it. I became so good at writing twist endings and unexpected things and really what I would call a satisfying conclusion or satisfying ending that I'm at a point now where I suppose if I have to write something, I'm not worried about the ending. I know it'll come out well, just because I've been doing it since I was a child. But anyway, I came to LA to write. It's very, very hard to, if you don't know anyone in LA, and you're a white male, straight white male.
I keep hearing, yeah.
It's almost impossible to get any kind of, so like, there are a lot of white males who work as writers and directors and things like that in Hollywood, of course. And they basically all want to help out their sister's kid or their cousin, or
of course,
there's a lot of nepotism.
When I was doing internships at NBC, that I learned that quickly. They were like, how are you even here? You're not like somebody's daughter. And I was like, no.
Right. Well, they do. But here's the thing. So they do want to bring in new blood that isn't nepotistic, just whatever, of course. But Hollywood has become so woke now that the only new blood they want to bring in, that's not your brother's cousin or whatever. Your brother's cousin would be your cousin, but you get the idea. Are like black people or gay people or women. Or maybe if you're bi or trans or something as well, or if you're Asian or Hispanic or whatever. But primarily it's black people, women, especially black women. If you're a black woman, you're basically like,
the world is your oyster.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're any good at all. If you're a black woman watching this, drop everything, come to Hollywood right now, be a writer or a director or something like that. Just say you are. It doesn't matter if you have an experience, and they will put you on a major motion picture tomorrow because there's not enough. There isn't enough representation in the business, they think, and it's weird. It's this concept of equity versus equality, right? Like everybody has an opportunity in Hollywood, nobody has any opportunities because there's all these gatekeepers, right? Yeah. That basically say, I'm going to invest in you or I'm going to bring you in on a project or whatever it is. And I mean, to me, like, I don't like any of that kind of hierarchy, you know, I'm rich, I'm awesome, whatever. I don't like that sort of, hey, buddy, you can get on camera, but
Aw.
yeah, okay.
What's his name?
His name is Aston, and I called him that because I can't afford the car.
What a pretentious name for a cat.
Yeah,
Aston.
Yes.
Hello,
Yeah.
Aston.
Like Aston Martin.
Do you want some tuna today, Aston?
But anyway, I had one guy. I happen to know Ryan Reynolds, a good friend of Ryan Reynolds, who produces a lot of his stuff. And I don't know how much cachet he has in the business. He's a good guy. I like him. But he has a first look deal with NBC, and also like Sci-Fi Channel and what's the other one? USA. And I pitched him a show because I met him. I know him, and he said, "Look, if you ever have any good ideas, pitch me." And I said, "Okay." So I called him up one day. I said, "I have a really great idea." He goes, "Come on in." So I come in, I pitch him and his assistant, and they go nuts. They're like, "This is the best show." They're like, "This is great. Where do you see this, being broadcast?" And I don't know if you know anything about the TV world, but if you get a show on one of the networks, NBC, CBS, ABC, or Fox, it's a much bigger deal than if you get it on like a cable channel like USA or Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
You get paid a lot more money, the much bigger budgets, just much better resources get put into the show. And I didn't want to be, I'm like a nobody, right? I'm in terms of the writing world in Hollywood, nobody knows who I am. So I was like, well, you're connected. I read to USA and Sci-Fi. You could go on either one of those. And he goes, "Oh, no. This is NBC."
Wow.
So I was like, yes, please. So he goes to NBC, and I don't know if they even read the treatment or the script or anything. It was like a pass, like based on concept alone. And I don't know if they just looked up who I am and realized that this is a straight white guy, is a first-time writer. I don't really know what the reason was, but we couldn't even get it anywhere. So that's the. And I also had a show called Satan that I had written, a concept called Satan, where Satan moves to LA, like. He's like bored with hell, so he moves to LA.
Is it starring Joe Biden or
starring Joe Biden? Well, and so I had a lawyer at the time who got it to Fox, and then Fox passed on it and said, "Oh, we have a there's my cat." Okay.
Oh, Aston, you're out of focus.
Hey, buddy. She got it to Fox, and then Fox passed on it, and then produced a show called Lucifer, which you probably heard of.
Interesting, with my boy Mark Pellegrino.
Yeah. Oh, I know Mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Mark. Yeah. No. He plays Lucifer on a show called Supernatural.
Oh yeah.
Lucifer is a sort of it's basically the same concept I had, but I looked it up, and there was a guy who wrote a comic book called Lucifer back in like the 90s about Satan getting bored with hell and moving to LA. And I'm like, what are the chances that we came up with this? And some people were like, "Oh, you must have read that when you were a kid and you like subconsciously embedded it in your head or something like that." I'm like, no, I know how I came up with this idea, and it had nothing to do with that. Like there was a whole like a bunch of other ideas that led to that one. So I know how I came up with it. And I'm like, that's so bizarre how you get these parallel ideas. So that wasn't stolen from me. That was just a weird coincidence. But yeah, I had some kind of like weird setbacks trying to be a writer out here in Hollywood, and I just couldn't get people to read my stuff. And, I don't blame the fact that I'm straight white male. I mean, I just think that's a big problem that contributed to the fact I couldn't be successful doing that out here, because I'm a genius writer. I just want everybody to know that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I hear the same thing from extremely talented comedians, that like actually being a straight white man it keeps them from getting.
Is that now true with comedy as well?
Oh yeah. Big time.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks, because especially with comedy, it's so hard to find. Now, this is what I was going to say about comedians earlier, and why I was so surprised that you're like, "Oh yeah, comedians are kind of looked down on in like the regular world by regular people," because like I living in Hollywood and knowing actors and knowing writers, and writers are usually pretty smart, but the smartest performance people I ever meet are comedians. They're almost always very, very highly intelligent. You very rarely meet any comedian who's, even the ones that play dumb are really smart.
True. And what we see of now is a lot of like I guess activists or just like loud twats, like really just posing as comedians.
Twats.
They just twats.
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 No, it's not twats. Twats is how British people say it because they say their A is weird.
You say it twat?
Oh, it's twat.
Really?
Oh,
Twat
it's definitely
is like,
twat.
I don't know. Twat sounds more like Long Island. I don't know.
Okay,
It's
but
going to take a
it's
lot
wrong.
for me to turn around on that. But
Okay, well, I'm from
twats.
Oregon, so okay, if you're from Long Island, you can say twat, I guess.
What's up with these twats? Not enough twats.
No,
at
it's a
this
British.
party.
It's a British thing. Twat is a British thing.
Oh, and so is cunt, I think. I'm gonna have to put so many bleeps in this. I don't know how to do the bleeps. I'm gonna probably let them roll.
Yeah, I don't say that word a lot, but I never really
It's
thought about
pronounced
it.
cunt. You're like, no.
Well, you know what's weird about that word specifically? That word was not a swear word when I was a kid coming up. Like when I was a little kid, I never heard that. I only heard that as an adult.
Yeah.
And in the UK, it was considered like the worst word ever. And I thought, I've never even heard that word.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not bad. If you don't grow up with it as a swear word, you're like, I don't have a problem with that. Now I'm a little bit more.
From?
I'm from Salem, Oregon.
Okay.
It's the capital of Oregon.
Is that near like the liberal parts?
Well, I mean, it's the capital, so it's definitely got all the elected leftist officials. I mean, I grew up with a good mix. I mean, probably, I would say most of my friends were more sort of like leaned left, or they were left, but they weren't crazy. They were sort of like Bill Clinton 1990s leftists.
Okay,
they were like kind of. I mean, they were big potheads and stuff. A lot of guys, but the thing is, like a lot of potheads who in the 90s would have been like a Democrat are today like libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
They've because like a lot of these guys are very intellectual. Like at least the guys that I knew, the potheads were all really intellectual guys. The ones that haven't burned out are probably mostly libertarian now. I mean, I haven't talked to them in years, but that's the kind of people. When I meet like a solid libertarian, those are the kind of guys they tend to be.
Informal.
I was like, oh, you're like my buddy Matt who used to smoke weed in high school. I had
like
one
liberals
friend
who start making a little bit of money and like want to keep it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, no. I met people like that as well. I mean, I met a girl. This was when I was in college. I had met a girl who had gone back to college. She was like in her 30s. She'd gone back to college to get a degree. And she said, when I was married, she had been married and she got a divorce. And she goes, when I was married, I was a Republican because I wanted to keep all my money. And then I got divorced and now I'm poor. And so now I'm a Democrat. And I just
how that works. Yeah.
I just realized that some people, it doesn't matter what party you're in, you have no real principles. You just are a selfish, horrible person.
Yeah, you just will go wherever keeps you like in power, keeps you with money. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there is this perception that Democrats are willing to hand out welfare and just like money to people that they perceive to be poor or whatever, and so it's sort of like it's sort of like the concept of the high school election where the rich kid promises to give everybody in the school like a Nintendo or something. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, chocolate milk and the water fountains. That's
this kind of thing. It just seems so like blatant bribery for votes. That it's I don't know. To me, that kind of thing is so obvious. It shouldn't really exist.
When I was in 5th grade, I was secretary. I ran. I did not aim too high. I was like,
did you give cookies?
I can do secretary. I was like, I have excellent penmanship. Do you want to see it? And I had a matching like teal jumpsuit, like sweatsuit.
And you won? Did you win?
And I won.
Hey!
I beat Kunal Aurora, and that was the last time a white girl won that position. No, I'm kidding.
I think I probably only ran for 2 positions at any time in my school time, and I lost both. I ran for different offices, lost both times. I told you I was not popular. People did not like me.
Maybe they were doing mail-in ballots at that time.
It was all. Yeah, it was.
They stopped the count early in the morning.
They stopped the count at that time. All right, so let me sort of get into
George
where I am now.
Lopez ruined you for wanting to work in Hollywood, and
no, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. When I was working there, it was a lot of fun because even though it was kind of silly show. I mean, it wasn't like the best show ever. I mean, it lasted a long time. And we had the stupid inter-office politics, and there was the whole stupid thing about, like, I was still very hopeful, and I was meeting some kind of, people that I thought were kind of vaguely important. They weren't really that important people in Hollywood, but people that I thought were kind of cool. People who were writing. Actually, one guy who I know, he's on Fox all the time now. What's his name?
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson wrote for George Lopez show. He's little known.
Because he was white, and then now look at him. He's doing
What's
great.
his name? That's not Mark. I don't remember what his name is. Anyway, there's a guy who used to write for George Lopez who's now a sort of conservative political comedian guy, and he's on. And he's friends. I'm friends with him.
Jimmy Fallon.
Oh no, but I saw your interview with Joe DeVito, by the way. That was also
I just him.
Your show is so underrated.
Wow,
hold on. Let me look up this guy. No, I'm not going to find him. Am I?
Jimmy Dore, Mark Stein,
Michael Loftus.
Michael Loftus. Oh, that sounds familiar.
He's on Gutfeld a lot, and he's on different stuff, and very smart, very funny. And he used to write for the George Lopez show. And so I met him on George Lopez. So I know him because I used to. So that's like a person that I would meet when I was 25 years old. I met this guy and I thought, oh, this guy's a cool guy. He writes for a major, television show on primetime TV. So, I mean, he wasn't like a top executive in Hollywood, but he was a cool guy to know. And so just knowing people like that, meeting people like that, there's one guy who used to work on the show that was an actor. He was an actor when he was younger, when he was like a teenager. And he was one of the Cobra Kai from Karate Kid.
Oh, cool.
And so you meet all kinds of weird people like that you would never think that, growing up in Oregon, you'd ever meet. And so like my brother came down once and I introduced him to this guy and he was just like, you're the coolest guy I've ever met in my life, Just, you have these kind of fun moments when you're in Hollywood. I had a buddy who was in love with he used to fall in love with girls on TV. I don't know if you know guys like this who will watch a movie.
I think they're called simps.
He's a little simpy, yeah. So there was a girl named Rachel Leigh Cook. Do you know who this girl is? She's kind of famous for a while. She did a movie called She's All That.
Oh yeah.
And she did a movie called she was on this show called Dawson's Creek.
Oh yeah.
And I ran into her once at a bar. Yeah, very beautiful girl. Ran into her once at a bar, and for some reason, I don't know if my buddy had told me like, oh, I'm like in love with this girl or whatever, but he was a British guy, British Pakistani, and so stuttered, right? Like he couldn't quite get his words out. Quite, he was a very, very charming guy because he couldn't, but he
girls
I
love that. Guy. Girls love a British Pakistani.
Yeah,
I had sex with one once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
I
wonder if Chrissie Mayr has had sex with a British Pakistani, and now I know the answer.
Yeah, I was like, on one condition, you have to be British. Yeah.
Just talk to me like this the whole time. No, he was a great guy, really cool guy, and but he was always late for everything, and so I was supposed to meet him at this. It was Barney's Beanery.
On time. I've arrived in time.
Yeah. But he didn't he eventually did. But so I was at Barney's Beanery in Santa Monica, and I run into this girl, and I call up. This guy's name's Imran. I call up Imran, and I go Imran. There's this girl here.
Wait,
Imran. Imran. Anyway, so this guy, I called him up. I'm like, hey man, you got to get over here. There's a girl here who I think you'd like. I think she's on this from this movie called She's All That. For some reason, I don't know, instinctively I knew this was a girl he would like, or maybe he told me once, I forgot, and I just had it subconsciously or something. And he goes, oh yeah, Rachel Leigh Cook. And I just mentioned the movie She's All That. I didn't know who the hell Rachel Leigh Cook was. I didn't know her name. I'm like, how do you know her name? He's like, she's like my number one girl in the whole world. It's like her and Winona Ryder. If I could have any girl in the world, it would be Rachel Leigh Cook or Winona Ryder. This is back when Winona Ryder wasn't crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, okay, well I'm like, well, you got to get over here, man. She's standing right next to me. So he finally gets there like an hour later, and he comes up and he goes, "That's not her, mate." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? That I've seen the movie. That's right. He's like, no, that's not her. She's Tola. That girl looks a lot like her. And I was like, well, that's even better because if it looks like the girl of your dreams and it's not her, just go talk to her. He's like,
easier to get. Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. So I was like, all right, fine. Let's get out of here. Because my friend that I was with wanted to leave. So we were all leaving.
His standards are too high.
I see this big line outside Barney's Beanery. And I realized we can't go back in if he changes his mind. So I just yelled for him to stop. I go, Imran, stop. So he stops walking. I turn around and I go up to her and I tap her on the shoulder. And she turns around and I go, what did I say?
You're not Rachel Leigh Cook?
No. I said, what's your name? And she turns around and she goes, what's your name? And it was kind of a nice little moment. It was like a little flirtatious. And I thought, oh, this is great. Like it's a movie star flirting with this. It's fantastic. So I said, I'm Chris. And she goes, I'm Rachel. And
it was
Imran had followed me in. Yeah. So I kind of turned to Imran and he kind of turns to me and he turns back to her and he goes, I said, kid you not. He goes, are you the Rachel?
The Rachel. That's fun to say to anybody.
It was the weirdest.
What a confusing thing to hear. Say, everybody try that out with somebody.
It was the weirdest. Yeah, somebody should go up to you and be like, "Oh, you the Chrissie?"
I'd be like,
because you are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "I'm a Rachel," and he goes, "Yeah, but are you Rachel Leigh Cook?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm Rachel Leigh Cook." And he's like, "Oh, I'm a big fan." And then she talked to him for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. She was like very flattered that he was a big fan. She was like super cool. And, then we left and yeah, she was just awesome. She was like very, very cool. But yeah, he got to meet sort of like the woman of his dreams, which is like,
wow.
And she was great. And that was the really cool thing. Like they always say, don't meet your heroes. But like, that's the kind of weird stuff that happens in Hollywood. That was my favorite celebrity encounter. I'd never heard of this girl in my life. I just kind of vaguely remembered her from this movie, but it was my buddy's sort of dream woman,
I hooked a buddy of mine up with his like supposed dream woman. Like she was she was kind of like a political commentator. She was a conservative, like very beautiful. God, I can't remember her name, but like my friend was like obsessed with her. He was like, if you can get us together on your show, if you can get us together on Wet Spot, I will be eternally grateful. She's like my number one crush. Because he's like a funny guy too. He like jumps in on the show sometimes. If I could meet
her.
Was
his thinking that he could get her?
Yes,
he like thinking I could get this girl?
Because I have introduced him. He has hooked up with many of my friends. So, and I was like, really? If this is the one, if this is your dream girl, like I will get her here. And sure enough, like I think.
So your thinking was, I'm going to stop him hooking up with my friends by just.
Well, I was like, I'm this good matchmacher. I was like, okay, this could be a love connection because he seemed like he could have been her type. And sure enough, they like hook up once, and he's like, I'm over her. And I was like, what?
Wow,
like this was your dream girl. And then I was like, I'm done hooking this person up.
That does happen sometimes where you meet a girl and you're like, wow, I think I might marry this girl. And then after like a day, you're like, no.
Like, yeah, what's for lunch?
That's why I think, because I've never dated a girl from like Tinder. I've never gone on a Tinder date or any of that stuff.
What about Grindr?
Oh well, yeah, obviously. That's
how I met my wife.
That's how I met my wife. Massive clitoris, like 10 inches. Anyway, that's another stand-up guy's joke I stole. I can't take credit for that. No, like to me, I have very high standards, but not necessarily. Well, we all have whatever standards we have with the looks department, but with regard to personality, like, and it's not about like you have to have the best personality, it's more just like if you click. And I think this is true with male friends as well. Like when you meet somebody, you click with them, you know what I mean? And so, but with women, if it's a girl that, because I've never been interested in the whole hookup thing. To me,
you'll just sit girls on your lap, you're not gonna follow through with it.
Well, I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm just saying that's not really my goal typically in my head. I try to be like a decent, honorable person. I feel like the hookup thing is kind of a douchey lifestyle. So I've never wanted to engage in it.
It's like a quick fix. Yeah. Some
girls used to call me a playboy back in the day, which I thought was a kind of interesting thing because I always like a playboy is sort of like like a player, except instead of trying to get laid all the time, you just have women around you because
they're attracted to you. Women that call men playboys are just pissed that they can't get them. So that's like their little dig. Like, oh, you're such a player. No, bitch, you just aren't good enough. He just didn't pick you. Okay.
Well, the player thing I think is a real thing where guys are trying to play women by like lying to them or whatever. Whereas
we call them fuck boys now. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Sure. But like the Playboy name I liked because it seemed more sort of old fashioned-y. But I mean, I wasn't rich or anything. It wasn't like I had a yacht and girls were hanging out.
Away, twat. Yeah.
It's twats. Yeah. Yeah. Like Bruce Wayne would be like a Playboy, right? But I didn't have the money. I just had the women. I didn't have the money when I was young.
There. Yeah.
I was halfway there. Yeah. I should have had the money. That would have been nice. But yeah, so I couldn't be successful in Hollywood. To switch back to the origin story, I couldn't be successful in Hollywood doing the writing thing. For whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't a good enough hustler. I do think I was a good enough writer. I mean, that seems like an arrogant thing to say, but I that's what I think. I think I think I'm a very good writer, but I could never get my foot in the door. I couldn't get anywhere. So one day I thought I was always thinking of some new thing to do, and what I decided to do at one point was I'm going to do a conservative political YouTube channel. And this was actually kind of scary because I knew if I do a politically conservative YouTube channel that I will probably never work in Hollywood ever again.
Yeah.
And because I immediately, as I thought of it, I thought of what the channel was going to be. I thought of the name, Mister Reagan. I thought of the logo. I thought of everything pretty much in like 10 minutes. Like I thought of everything instantly. It all kind of came to me. Yeah, that's my other channel, Mr. Peagan.
Oh, whoops.
No, that's Mister Reagan. That's my channel, and then I have my other channels.
Okay, says, right.
Which is my channel, in which I mock my own self.
That's great.
Which I'm, yeah. So
some of these videos are great. You're crushing it.
Yeah, some of them. Well, I used to be crushing it, but YouTube doesn't like conservatives, so YouTube has pretty much destroyed my channel. They've not quite destroyed it completely, but they're getting there. And yeah, so I started doing this Mister Reagan YouTube channel, kind of knowing it was going to be successful. Like some things you do in life, and you just know instantly this is going to be good. Like occasionally I do a YouTube video, and I'm like, this is going to be a big video.
Why did you know that it would be successful?
Well, 3 reasons, really. One, I was watching a lot of conservative content, and at that time, it was about like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. I realized that there wasn't enough content to satisfy me. And if there wasn't enough content to satisfy me, there was probably not enough conservative content on YouTube to satisfy a lot of people. So I realized that there was a demand in the market that was unfulfilled by the supply. So I realized that in fact, what I originally thought was some a-hole needs to get a camera and a mic and do another show. And then I realized, I have a camera and a mic. I'm the a-hole.
I could be that a-hole. I have this great voice.
I should be that a-hole. But the other thing was that, so I guess let's just say 2 things. One thing was that I saw that there was a demand in the market. And then the other thing was that, well, okay, yeah, it is 3 things. One of the other things is that I've studied filmmaking and I know camera lenses and microphones and stuff. So I knew that I could do it at a quality that was relatively high. Okay, here, Aston.
It sounds like the cat is saying your name. It sounds like the cat is going, Chris.
Chris. Yes, he wants attention. We've been gone for a month, so he wants to be pet a lot right now. So anyway,
just like a woman.
Yeah, we had a house sitter though who he loves, so he should be okay. But whatever. Yeah. The other thing was that so there's a lot of conservative YouTubers that kind of repeat the points of other conservatives. So you'll kind of aggregate other people's ideas and then you'll express them on your show. And we all do that to some extent. I mean, everyone. Dinesh D'Souza does that. Sebastian Gorka does that. Ben Shapiro does it. We all do that a little bit. We all kind of take each other's ideas and then aggregate them and then express them on our own shows if we agree with them, obviously. But I had some ideas that no one had yet expressed, I felt. And I thought, okay, well, let me express some of the ideas that I have that are like original ideas that I've never heard before. And so I kind of knew that not only was there a demand in the market, I could make a quality show, but that I had a lot of original ideas about politics that I could express. And that was really to me, that was the key. I thought, okay, a lot of people are going to hear what I have to say and say, oh, that's actually quite a good idea. And that wasn't true at first. At first, my first video that did reasonably well was a video where I reacted to Jordan Peterson in a debate. And I realized that Jordan Peterson absolutely obliterated this guy. This guy, his name is Michael Eric Dyson. And Michael Eric Dyson does this thing what a lot of leftists do, is they use a lot of sort of esoteric words. They use a lot of big words and words that people don't understand in order to seem intellectual. They try to convolute something they're trying to express so that you cannot break it down. Yeah, this is some of my earlier stuff that obviously doesn't have a lot of views.
You're getting more views than me, though. It's not a competition. Okay, so was it this one? Was it the Jordan Peterson one? Let's see.
If you go up to the very, very beginning, it was actually pretty quick. It was Jordan Peterson, mean, mad, white man. Hey, Aston.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Mean, mad, white man. So he says, you see how much better looking I used to be? He used
to
be
so
much
same.
Skinnier.
You look the same.
I was like half the size. So Jordan Peterson was called a mean, mad, white man, and basically he broke Michael Eric Dyson. And it was a great moment. I thought, I'm going to react to that. That's very cool. And I went on, I did the show, and that was the first video that did reasonably well and got me kind of some views. And that didn't really have anything to do with my ideas. It had everything to do with Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson was a huge deal at that point. And I loved him. I loved what he was doing.
He was blowing up. Yeah. And not intentionally. I think it was over the pronoun thing. He was like among the first, like, sort of, I guess, like, anyone like an intellectual really coming out against like using pronouns.
He was expressing power. A lot of the stuff that not just the pronoun thing, but a lot of other things that were things that I had wanted to express myself. He's a lot more intelligent than I am, though. But I can connect a little bit better to the average person because I speak normal English. And so I would Canadian. Take a lot of Oregonian. He's a Canadian. But so I would kind of break down a lot of the stuff that he was saying, and I would talk about it on my show. And I got a lot of Jordan Peterson fans watching me, and that was cool. And then I did a Gillette parody video. So it was actually a comedy video. It was my first really big video that hit over 1 million views. And there was this ad for Gillette that was like, "Men are horrible. Be a better man." And I just thought that's a weird ad to do for a razor company. So I immediately thought, I'm going to do a parody of this. So I took their video and I did my own voiceover. So I was like, look at this black man. He hates himself because he's too masculine. It's like, look at this other guy, and I just went through and I basically did the same voiceover that they had done, but a little bit more obvious and direct. And it was very funny, and it blew up. It got me like over 1 million views, but it was only my voice. So nobody saw my face and nobody knew who I was still. Okay. But then like 2 weeks after that, I did my AOC video. And that really was what blew me up. I discovered who was kind of controlling AOC and what their plan was. They'd put out a video in which they actually admitted that AOC was essentially just a pawn that they were using. Wow. It was called The Brains Behind AOC.
The Brains Behind AOC. Interesting.
And Cenk Uygur was their sort of like hype man. In the video, I actually say Cenk Uygur, it was his whole idea, but it actually wasn't. He just made a bunch of videos in which he said it was his idea. But it was actually this other guy, whose name I can't remember. Oh, Zach Exley is his name. Okay. So he was kind of the mastermind behind it. But yeah, they made this whole video. This Justice Democrats is the group. They made this video saying, all the stuff you've done in Congress, all of your votes and all the stuff that you've said, that's all the group, right? And she's like, yeah, it's all the group. And so she's in the video, like admitting that none of her ideas are her own or anything. She just like goes to the group and takes from them. So she was essentially acting as this puppet. And I was fact checked by all kinds of places saying like, because I said she was an actress, right? Which she's not like a professional actress. It was sort of like saying she's a puppet. And they were like, she's not an actress. She doesn't have any credits on IMDb.
Oh, God.
I'm just like, no, but that's, you wouldn't say this person's not a puppet because they're not made of wood and they don't have strings attached to them, right? It's a metaphor. But I was fact checked on this actor. Even if you go today to like Snopes and look up is AOC an actress, they'll say this is a lie. This is a fake news or whatever. But shut up. I will murder you. You want this? You want this? Go get that. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, go.
And I never believed that she was a bartender either. I feel like somebody should just go up to her and be like, "Really, make a redheaded slut right now. Go."
Oh, come on. She's got boobs.
Like,
of course she was a bartender.
I do believe she's an actress though. Like she was very much like put in to play a role.
Yeah, because she does a great job. I mean, she's just kind of, she's good on camera. She's charismatic. She's kind of pretty. A lot of conservatives, if I say, AOC is a beautiful woman. Thing is, she's not really my type. You know my wife. You know what my wife looks like. AOC's not really my type, but objectively, she's attractive. She's a beautiful woman, and people get really mad at me, and they're like, "She's not beautiful. She's hideous." And I'm like, "Don't look at the darkness within.
Yeah,
look at the superficial beauties. There's a reason why she's popular."
People have definitely hate jerked it to AOC.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Hey, you don't hate jerk, Chris? Oh my God, you're missing out.
Oh yeah, I gotta. I'm so impressed with all your interviews. I got a lot of movies I got to watch after this.
Yes, films.
Yeah, films.
That's cool though. Yeah, so you got looks like some of these videos like hit easily over.
They kind of went vaguely viral. See, it's kind of weird being me or Elijah or people within that kind of sphere, because we're famous amongst a very specific group of people, a very small subset of the population. So you get to taste a little bit of what fame is, and like people want to take your picture in the airport and stuff like that when they see you. But you're not world famous. So you're not like famous in like no Democrat has ever seen my show. I don't think.
You're not going to be on the Enquirer. Like you're not going to be on
exactly. Yes. So you get kind of the fun of somebody like recognizing you. I used to get it a lot more. I used to have like a spot right here. The dermatologist burned it off, but I used to have the spot right here, so it was really recognizable. So a lot of people recognize me.
You could draw it back on if you want. Like
I know I should just for
like
the thing.
Marilyn Monroe.
But I used to kind of joke with Valeria if I'd go to any public place and I wouldn't get recognized, I'd go, I wasn't recognized today. But it's become so frequent. I mean, like I never get recognized anymore because my show's essentially been collapsed by YouTube. So I've actually accepted the fact that I'm no longer even within conservative circles. I think I'm no longer famous.
No,
I used to be a little bit famous, and now I'm not famous.
You're still famous.
I'm a has-been. But Valeria gets mad at me for saying this kind of stuff. She doesn't like to talk about the fame thing.
She's a very private person. Like she's very sweet. I like met her and I was like, oh, I get right away. Like, wow, you two are good together. Because she's just she's Russian and she's like private, and she's also like very picky about like
she seems very stern, but she's actually quite funny. But only privately. Yeah. She's very funny. I went up to her in Vegas and she didn't know it was me. And I was like, hey, are you single? Like and I woke her up. I didn't realize I woke her up, and she was like, F off, I'm married. I was
I love that.
It was such a nice thing. And I thought she knew it was me at first. So I was like, oh, I don't care if you're married. That doesn't bother me. And she just goes like this.
Wow.
And then she flipped me off. And she had like like something in front of her eyes or something. So she couldn't see who I was. And then I wouldn't stop bugging her. So she got up and she goes, oh, it's you.
Oh my God. I love her.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
It's
very nice to have your wife reject you when she thinks it's somebody else.
She's loyal even in her sleep. Question from Johnny Dollar. Hey, Mister Reagan, is your speaking voice based off of Howard Cosell?
You know what? I'll tell you what. This is my normal voice. This is just how I speak. I will occasionally put on this voice as a kind of a joke, but it's not really based on anybody. The way I start every show is I start it with a kind of affected, like ridiculous announcer voice. So I'll say like if the name, I'm looking at a book, The Strange Death of Europe. If I titled an episode The Strange Death of Europe, I'd say, the strange death of Europe. And
That's
then I do
great.
my show, right? And then I do my intro, then I do my show. That's how I do every show. Well, the reason I do that, it comes from Jeremy Clarkson. He does a show called he used to do a show called Top Gear, became the Grand Tour on Amazon. But he'd always do this thing like, this is the greatest car in the world. And it was kind of like iconic fun thing that he used to do, and everybody used to mimic it. And I thought that'd be a funny way to start every show and I started doing that. Nobody really got the reference or knew what I was doing. And it was certainly stupid. But it just became a thing, and that's just what I do at the beginning of every show as
Makes
my
you
title.
sound very legit. Thank you for the super chat. Nate, just sending some love. Chrissy and Frank, does he think that you're my boyfriend? That's so funny. You don't not look like him.
Oh, is that right?
How sad. We could be together. I'm interviewing my own boyfriend this week.
I'll get rid of Valerio. We'll run off together, Chrissy. That'll be great.
Oh, Nate is back. Chris, are you on any other platforms? I'm trying to watch other creators anytime I can on Rumble and others. I hate YouTube, but it's hard to disconnect when the entire world is connected here.
I tried using Rumble for actually a long time, for months, and I could not. I wrote the people up Rumble. I tried to work out how to monetize. I tried to work out how to get views. I could not get views. I could not monetize. I could not. There's something up with that site where I think I don't think they're big enough yet to be able to grow on that platform naturally. So the only way you can be big, I know Dinesh D'Souza is really big on that site, and I think the only real way to grow on that site is for them to sort of artificially draw people to your channel or something like that. So I'm not really sure how certain people are big on that on Rumble yet, but I haven't been able to crack Rumble, and I kind of gave up on it. I probably shouldn't have, but I did. I gave up on Facebook even, because Facebook was censoring us so much. Like, it's, as a conservative, and I'm like an old school, that's why I'm called Mister Reagan. Like, I'm an old school Christian conservative. Yeah. And I genuinely did this show, and I genuinely I'm interested in politics, and I'm interested in these issues to improve the world. I mean, that's really the only motivation I have. And there's this, I mean, it's so ridiculous. When I started the show, one of the things I wanted to say on the show was that Republicans are not racist. That was like a major thing that I wanted to kind of say. It's a weird myth that America has that, and I think this is why a lot of people vote Democrat. People vote Democrat because they want to be associated with that brand, because the Democrats have been so good at branding themselves as not racist, and Republicans as racist, that people are like, I don't want people to see me as racist, so I'm going to be a Democrat and vote Democrat. And they can put forth any kind of ridiculous law, ridiculous proposal. It doesn't make any sense.
Yep,
and
it's all about how it looks. They've mastered the optics, sort of. And
they've mastered the optics. They're really good at advertising. And that's true of liars generally, right? If you want to be able to, like, trick people into thinking things, or lie to people, or you don't want to actually improve yourself, but you want to lie to people and make them think you're awesome, then, and you do that for many, many years, you're going to get better and better at it. I think Republicans, and some people will probably disagree with this, I think Republicans, for the most part, at least at our core, we have a good foundational philosophy, because Republican values are based in traditional Judeo-Christian ethics.
Right.
And so I don't think any Republican has ever gone into politics, either in media or actually like as a politician or whatever, and thought, I have to explain my positions to people. I have to, like, market these ideas, because you just think, well, my ideas are
common sense.
Or just like goodness or ethics or like values, like the good of the world. That's my, and Democrats are like, how do I trick people, right? And so if you're thinking, how do I trick people over, the centuries, well, not centuries, but, over the decades, then you're going to get good at it. And Republicans really just never got good at marketing. And we're still in this position of just being really the underdogs when it comes to optics, like you're saying. Yeah, it's terrible. And I'm not sure we're always right all the time. I mean, there's a lot of infighting. Like, what's weird is, like, porn stars are now becoming more conservative, which is really weird. And it used to be that, like, conservatives could kind of align with feminists, right? Because conservatives were like, porn is bad. Porn has a corrupting influence on society. And feminists would say porn
fuels
sort
the
of abusive
patriarchy,
to women,
or it's like it's
exploits
made
women.
for a male gaze, or it's like
It's made for men, not male gays, usually straight people, but okay.
The male gaze, right?
It's a joke. No. It's a joke. So it's a bad joke, but no, it's porn exploits women. Therefore, we have to stop pornography, the pornography industry. So Christian conservatives and feminists had this one bizarre link, even though one was really for abortion and the other was against abortion. So they had this they would team up in this one area, and that's really been severed because I think feminists anyway are now like, oh, porn is empowering to women and prostitution is empowering to women, which I suppose can be true sometimes, but I think a lot of times it is exploitive. You've got kind of both sides of that coin there. But now it's they're completely gone. And what's weird is that we've taken like pot smokers on the conservative side, because a lot of pot smokers were into the idea of liberty. I need to be able to do what I want to do without the government censoring me. And Republicans have always been sort of anti even soft drug use. I mean, we don't like, everybody goes, oh, well, alcohol's worse. I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't drink either. Like, I don't think people
pop that Viagra,
Well, Viagra's actually like a medically needed thing by some people.
Oh yeah, it's medically needed.
I don't know. I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there
not
yet.
You, of course. No.
I don't know how necessary it is, but here, go chase that.
Are you just throwing garbage at the cat? Hoping that will.
I have all these packaged things because we just came back from. We were in Hawaii for a month, so I have everything still in like little plastic baggies and stuff. I'm just letting him chase after things. So now we have this weird alignment with pot smokers, because pot smokers, as they were trying to legalize pot, all really became libertarian. They all started reading Ayn Rand and they started learning about all these libertarian ideas. They all became big fans of Ron Paul, who's essentially a conservative. Really, I mean, he's a pretty severe libertarian, but in a lot of the social issues, he's pretty conservative. And I think he's a Christian guy, Ron Paul. And so, like a lot of pot smokers kind of came over to the conservative side-ish. And now we have this weird alignment with libertarians. I think used to be more leftist, and now they're more on the right. I mean, the left has really kind of destroyed itself. I found that the best recruitment stuff in the world for conservatives, for Republicans, is just leftists being crazy.
Yeah,
I have one friend.
And you go, ugh, I don't want to be part of that.
Well, you had a couple of people on. The first porn star that I watched you interview was a girl who said that she wasn't really into politics, and then the lockdowns like red pilled her.
Was that?
You know what I'm talking about? I don't know her name.
Was that Jessica Vaughn?
Yes,
the one
I think
dating
so.
Michael Malice. Yeah.
So I'm and I just thought, like, that's amazing to me. Like,
that's what happened to me. I had all the time.
Yeah, then you
and
said
all
the same
internet.
thing, right?
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, I had a couple rough 4 a.m. nights of learning stuff. But then you're like, all right, I'm glad that I know, so I can.
Well, I have a buddy who's gay, Mexican. He's an actor in Hollywood. He's the demographic that you would think would never be a Republican. He's always been voted Democrat his whole life.
Did he used to work for George Lopez? He would have been a shoo-in.
I can't tell you. I can't tell you much about him because he'll kill me, because he doesn't want to be outed as having voted for Trump or anything like that.
I was doing a callback.
But yes, he did. That's where I met him. I met him on the show. We worked together on that.
Really?
Show. Yeah.
Oh shit! So I was right.
Yeah. So I've known this guy for years. Many years, and love this guy. Great guy. Awesome guy. We've always argued about politics, and like maybe a year ago, he called me and he was like, "Chris, I'm out here in Hollywood and I have no one to talk to about this stuff, because people are in their little groups, and he works on a popular sitcom right now as a stand-in, and he's like, people are talking in their groups on the shows that I work on, and these people are crazy. They're like straight up hate white men, and he's Mexican, so he's kind of like okay, and he's gay, so he's like super okay.
Yeah, he's exempt.
He's kind of exempt, but he realized, he's like, this is exactly why you wanted to be a Democrat in the 90s, was that they were the not racist ones, but then they're totally racist against white people. I'm like, yeah, I told you this years ago.
It's
and he's
curdled. Yeah, it's really.
he's like, I
become
didn't
so
really
warped.
believe it until now. And then like I'm right, like maybe like 4 days ago or something. Or no, it would have been just before. It was a month ago. He called me and he goes, Chris, he goes, this for the first time in my life, I think I don't hate the word Republican.
Wow.
Like I might actually start calling myself a Republican now, which is I never thought I could do in my whole life. But like it's so weird. Like you have these burned into your brains, these images of what's good and what's bad, right? And you see the word Republican and you think these people are bad people. You know, they're racist, they're homophobic, whatever. And it's really hard for people to remove that feeling or that thought out of their head because they just have it for so long. And people don't want to be wrong. You know, you don't want to be wrong. You don't want your entire world to turn out to be a lie. So people really will fight. There's somebody that I'm kind of close to, I won't mention who it is, who writes me. Okay, I'll tell you, it's my uncle. He's a far leftist,
Uncle
left guy.
Reagan. Uncle Reagan.
Yeah. And he writes me all the time with these, and he sends me these articles and things, and he's like, oh, you should check this out. This like proves that Trump's a bad guy. But it's an article from like 2017 about something that was like disproven like I covered on my show like 2 years ago, and it's been disproven like a bunch of times. I'm like, you know, if you're gonna send me an article from 2017, at least follow up and do the counterpoint research and make sure you're right, because I don't want to have to respond to him every day with a counterpoint article.
Yeah, he's dealing with old info.
But he's just so desperate to find anything that makes Democrats right.
Right,
because he's voted Democrat his whole life and he doesn't want to be anything.
It's easier to do that than have a paradigm shift and be like, "Oh my God, and I don't have my identity anymore. I have to take this thing out of my bio, like my group alignment."
Well, and there's so many people that'll hate you in New York and LA that'll just hate you. I mean, other places as well, but New York and LA in particular.
But Democrats thrive off of like, well, in order to have victims, we have to have oppressors. And really, like when there's truly no racism anymore, they're like, oh God, we got to find white people. All right, you guys can handle it, right? Okay, you're the bad guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because there's no real good political points that you can make anymore in terms of debate, because the Democrats have gone so crazy. And that's, I think, why they don't really debate us anymore. There's very few Democrats who will debate anymore, and the ones that do tend to use that.
Yeah,
they just call you racist, and then they say, I won't talk to this person because he's a racist, because he's a bad. I don't want to get that dirt on me. You know, I don't want to give that person a platform or whatever. They come up with some excuse. The few people who will debate that I found, there's a few who will in good faith, but the vast majority that will still debate conservatives will debate in bad faith. So they'll come in with this idea of, we're going to debate the issues. And there was one guy I debated. His name was Destiny. He's this guy online. He does a lot of these debates.
Was he a master debater?
I think that he is. Yes, he's a master debater. He's quite good. I defeated him pretty soundly on all the issues in terms of the debate. I felt like he didn't really know that much about school choice, and he wanted to talk about school choice. I'm like, I don't think you want to talk about school. I know a lot about school choice. Like, I don't think you want to talk about that. Let's go into another. Like, let's talk about something maybe we're more even. I was trying to be kind of more fair, and he was like, "No, let's get into it." I'm like, "Okay." So I started educating him on the whole concept, just not even the factual points or the data, because they didn't have that on me. Just the rationality about school choice, just the logic, like how it makes sense logically to give kids and parents the choice of what school to go to, and not having school districts where you're forced to go to a crappy school because you live in a particular neighborhood. I'm like, how is that not like a leftist idea? That would help like every poor black child in the world, which is what you pretend that you care about so much.
Right.
And so I defeated him pretty soundly on every political point. But what I realized at some point kind of after the debate was that he was never really trying to debate me on the points. What he was trying to do the whole time was to create the illusion that I was a racist or I was some kind of a bigot.
Right. And if he can discredit you as a person, he doesn't have to answer to anything you say.
Yeah, and that's a debate that atheists like to do when they have an atheist Christian debate. There tends to be this not attempt to discredit the person by calling them racist, but making them seem less intelligent. This was something that seemed to be developed by Christopher Hitchens when I used to watch all those debates. Christopher Hitchens used to do this very clever thing where he would really harshly ridicule his opponent, like ridicule them. And he was very funny. Is my cat dying? He's so loud. I'm so sorry.
Jordan, buy the cat. Buy the poor cat.
We have so many toys.
Toy, you cheap.
Okay.
You cheap.
Thank you for giving
Chrissy
some money.
Enjoying the
but honestly, this cat is the most spoiled cat on earth. Just look up Bengals. They are the loudest cats in the world. It's terrible.
Aston needs to check himself. Mm-hmm.
Before he wrecks himself, yeah. check your privilege, Aston.
Check your privilege,
Gosh darn it.
And he's like, gray lives matter. Gray cats matter.
Gray lives matter. Yeah, the whole Black Lives Matter is a scam. Like, it's so crazy now that you can't. Anyway, so this guy was trying to make me look like a racist, and it didn't really work. I don't think it really worked because I'm not a racist. Not only am I not a racist, like, okay, the racism doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me in America. Like, it makes sense in other places. Like, if you go anywhere in the world, I don't know if you've traveled much, but if you go anywhere in the world, literally anywhere, racism is thriving. Okay, like if you go to South America, if you go to Africa, the tribes hate each other, right? If you go to the Middle East, they're at war all the time.
Chinese are super racist. Yeah.
If you talk to the Koreans, they hate the Chinese hate the Japanese, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, like, you go all over the world, racism is everywhere. It's a natural condition of human beings. People are like, oh, racism is learned. It's learned by evil white men. No, it isn't. Racism stems from your natural inclination to be wary of the other, of the people who are different, and your sort of loyalty to your team, right? People have this sort of team loyalty. And I think all those things are fine. It's sort of fine to be a little bit wary of people who aren't like you. It is fine to be, sort of like loyal to your team. All that stuff is fine. It turns bad when you become so loyal to your team and so distrustful of the other, the outsider, that you end up becoming a hateful bigot, right? And saying, like, those people need to die. We need to have a massive genocide and kill them all off, right? Yeah. That's when it becomes obviously dangerous and terrible. Mm-hmm. But until it kind of like starts seeping toward that point, those natural instincts aren't necessarily bad. And I wouldn't say that I hate people just because they're racist, because if I did, I would probably hate most of the black people in America, right? True. Because all my black friends, I used to park cars. I used to be a valet out here in LA. And almost all the other guys that I would valet with are black guys. And we'd talk politics, and we got along very well. I still talk to a bunch of them. They're great guys. And, excuse me, but we come from very different worlds, And so when I would talk about some political things, they wouldn't really understand where I was coming from. But like, I always respected their point of view. They always respect my point of view. I mean, I act like they were like a monolith. They weren't. Obviously, each of them had their own views and stuff like that. But yeah, we would talk about this stuff, and it was sort of amazing how well we could get along and discuss these things. And it's completely different than what you would imagine that it would be based on, like, if you watch CNN. But it was great. We all kind of got along. We're all really funny guys, which actually helped out because we could just make jokes. But whenever I would bring up the idea that black people were racist, there was no debate. There was no argument. There was no discussion. It was just like, yep. Like, everyone of them would be like, oh yeah, black people are racist. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And that's, I mean, like, that's actually one thing, I don't like to say, oh, I love black people, or I love white people, or I love, you don't want to say that kind of like as a group, because some black people are really crappy people and some white people are really crappy people. So I love that about Republicans. We look at people as individuals, and I think that's the right way to do things. But one thing I love about black people, that said, one thing I love about black people is that they are often, and I think that's a cultural thing, they what they call keeping it real. Right? They will just say it as it is a lot of the time. They do not care.
They do keep it real.
They keep it real.
Keep it 100.
Is that a thing too? I don't know. I'm not that integrated into the black
that's
culture.
what the 100 emoji is about.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, with the red one with the line under it.
I just thought that was like 100, like 100%,
like a grade.
100% true. Yeah.
Could be that.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Yeah. Black culture has a lot of problems with it. I talk about this in my show a lot, where like everyone should be able to criticize everybody else's culture, because that's not.
No culture is perfect.
Yeah, you're not really born a culture. You're born a race, but you're not. You can choose your culture, especially now in America. You can kind of like reject.
Yeah, you don't have to
certain
participate. Right.
Like one thing that irritates the hell out of me is that when I was growing up, I knew this girl, black girl, and she complained to me like, she was in Texas, and she said, I can't take my books to school without getting ridiculed by other black people, because
I've heard that.
You know about this. Yeah. This is a thing.
I used to work for a private school, and like, there was a couple of black students that would be like, I can't, they would have to like change the way they would walk to school or whatever, or they would like have to dress a certain way because they would get like made fun of for like having books or having.
Well, because there's this idea that, oh, you're too white.
Right. That
like, what is that?
Pursuing education is somehow a white quality, which is wild.
But, okay. Forget the fact that that's insane, and that, black people shouldn't be putting being educated on white people. There's lots of other cultures, lots of Muslim cultures that emphasize education, Indians, Asians, like pretty much every culture emphasizes to some degree education. But black Americans have this thing that, oh no, that's a white thing, you can't do that. But let's put that aside for a second. Why is that bad? Why is it bad that that's a white thing, right? So that stems from a hatred or resentment of white people. That's a racist impulse. That just kills me, because I just think like...
Right, education is really, ultimately, you're pursuing mastery. So it's just the framing.
Especially in the 21st century.
Yeah, the framing is
like we live in the information age. If you're going to be successful in life, you need to be educated. And it's just like, you guys are killing every next generation of your own people by doing this, by having this culture of education is, makes you too white, and don't do it. It's a bad thing.
What are you allowed to know about, and what are you supposed to not know about? Like, what can you be good at then, if not school? So
yeah, so I have some videos in which I try to be provocative by saying things like, this is the problem with black culture. And then I do a video on that, because it's like some white guy's going to tell us what the problem with black culture is. And I actually did think I was going to get a lot of people going, this guy's a racist, this guy's terrible, blah, 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 blah. But I was really fortunate, at least on the YouTube videos. I haven't checked all the comments on the Facebook one. I should do that, because I think that's probably more negative. But on my YouTube video, I would find a lot of black guys who would get on there, and they would say like, listen, when I read this caption, when I read the title, I came here to laugh at you. I came here to get angry, because I thought, this white guy's going to tell me what's wrong with black culture. Mm-hmm. And he's like, everything you said is right. Everyone should listen to this guy. And I'm like, oh, I love this. And
look how many black friends I have.
Yeah, exactly. These are all my people.
We are all keeping it real.
Where's my black at? Where's my black at? Isn't that what Trump said once at a rally?
I think so.
Where's my
like
black?
My blacks, I love my blacks. You're all
Where's
here.
my black? Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, like, to me, this whole concept on the left of like, oh, you can't talk about black people in a negative way. You can't criticize anything black. Black's perfect. Black are victims. White people are oppressors. This whole mentality to me is a little racist. Like, if you're really not a racist person, if you genuinely do not care, you should be willing to criticize people. You know what I mean? Like, if I see a problem with the Chrissie Mayr podcast, I'm not going to be like, oh, Chrissie Mayr, you're amazing in every possible way. You just rock, girl. You are feminism. Yeah. No, I'm going to call you. I'm going to go, hey, you might want to fix this. It's going to make your show a lot better, because I like you. We're not like buddies, but we met in Vegas and I liked you. Yeah.
I think we're pre-friends.
Well, we did have sex that one time. It's not true, guys. That didn't happen.
Nobody came. It didn't count.
Yeah, it did. But speaking of that, oh no, I can't tell that story. Should I tell that story? That's a crazy story.
What?
I was doing one of these acting things. I had never kissed anyone in anything before, and I was really nervous, because I thought, okay, if I'm making out with a girl in a scene, and it was some random project.
Writing career. Or this is like...
Oh, no, I did a bunch of acting after, because I met this guy. I was living with this guy named Marty, what's his name? Marty Coping. He's like the voice of some... If you look him up on IMDb, he's the voice on some video game. He's like kind of famous now. his whole life is this video game guy now because he's I think he's the voice on a few. Martin Coping, I think is his name on IMDb. Anyway, he's a cool guy. I lived with him for a year when my buddy had to move back to Australia. He's an Australian guy, and his parents were big time actors in theater in Australia. So he came up in the theater in Australia, and he came to America to break into Hollywood. Good looking guy, cool guy, and he was struggling a little bit at that time. And he was always asking me to help him out with voiceover work. I've disappeared. Why has that happened?
It's your cat.
Yeah. What? I don't understand this. Hold on. Is this your fault? Did you do this?
Are you doing a black square for Black Lives Matter? Is that what this is?
You can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Let me turn my camera off. And we'll see what that is.
Okay. I was going to bring up a square of Martin Copping so you guys can see. Here's Martin Copping. Melbourne, Australia, actor, producer, known for Call of Duty, Infinite Warfare, Zombie Hunter, and Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah.
Look at all the
He's
credits.
a pretty big deal. Yeah.
Big deal.
He wasn't a huge deal when I I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay.
You can't see me anymore, guys. Sorry. I tried. I turned the camera off. I don't know what's going on.
Definitely I blame your cat.
But so this guy comes up to me one day and he goes, because I kept helping him with voiceover work. He's like, I want to audition for this role. I don't know how to do it.
Oops.
I'm pretty good with voices. So I was like, he seems like a villain, so maybe give him something like this, like Wolverine or Batman or something like that. I'm like, he's also intellectual, so maybe make him a bit aristocratic, make him English. And then maybe give him sort of like piratey voice or something like that.
Oh, so you were coaching him.
Yeah, and we would work out voice, and we just work it out together. And he's like, oh mate, you're so good at these voice things. Like you gotta start getting into acting, man. Like you're done with it. Like the writing thing's great and everything, but you're not successful, are you? You're like nobody will read your stuff. So like go into acting, get successful at that, then everybody's gonna read your stuff, aren't they? And I thought, well, I can't really disagree with that. That's actually pretty smart. Like, okay, I'll get into acting. Great. Yeah, but when you get into acting in Hollywood, it's a little bit intimidating because you think, well, there's lots of people that come here for acting. And I didn't come to LA for acting. So you join all these like amateur classes and stuff. And what you find out real quick is that most people who come to LA to act are terrible at acting. Terrible. Yeah, I was like legitimately
egomaniacs.
Yeah, exactly. I was legitimately the best actor in almost every class I was in. And I don't say that because I think, oh, I'm such an amazing actor. Yeah, come on, we get it. You're talented. Yeah, I'm not trying. Okay, yeah, I sound like an asshole, but I'm not trying to sound like an asshole. The point is that just so many people are terrible. I was not an amazing actor. I was just like vaguely competent. And so I thought, okay, yeah, maybe I could do this. So I go ahead and we're doing this. Okay, this is definitely bragging. I'm not trying to brag, but this. Maybe I am. I don't know. I go into this scene. It's the first thing we're just doing some kind of like almost like a shady project. This woman who's like, oh, can you do this like short film for me? I was like, okay, sure. So I'm making out with this girl in the scene. And I don't think I'd ever done this before. The girl ended up, let's see, how do I say this? Having a moment.
She got turned on?
No, not just turned on.
Came?
Yes.
What? Just from kissing you?
Yes. That happened.
Okay.
That actually happened. No, yeah.
Wow.
No, I know you're sitting there thinking like, okay, now you're just bragging. But it's okay. It's hard to explain what.
Like, I spoke her name and she came instantly.
Yes, yeah, that's what it sounds like. Okay, this turned out to be a much more awkward conversation.
No, that's amazing. That's
no, it's not supposed to be. It's okay. So we're doing this scene, and I'd never done a kissing scene before, right? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't really attracted to this girl either. That was a really bad thing, So we're doing this scene, and I'm just like, this happens, while we're shooting it. I'm just like, oh man, this is really weird. And it's not, I don't like doing makeout scenes and stuff like that. I hate doing that stuff because it's not romantic. It's not sexy. It's not, even if the girl's hot, like it's not enjoyable because because so
Brandy Love is in the chat.
That's interesting.
Maybe she wants to work with you, Chris.
Yeah. Well, you have to give her a number after show. My wife will be fine. Don't worry about it. No. It was a very odd thing. It's a very awkward thing. You got people shooting you got people doing audio. You got people in the room there with you. So you got to do this thing. You got to be in the moment. But it's uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't like doing those kinds of scenes. And then that happens on top of it. And I actually had to go to the bathroom afterwards because I had some allergies. There was a cat there. And I'm blowing my nose trying to sort myself out. This girl comes into the room after me to do makeup or something. And I was like, hey, earlier when we were doing that scene, did you? And she goes, oh, yes.
Did she make like moaning noises? Did she make like coming sounds?
Oh, no, she didn't make any noise.
She came.
It was more
silently.
of a body convulsion.
She was kissing you and she was like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, I know what that
This never happens. Yeah.
I promise this never happens. Yeah. It was very weird. It was a very
and were you practicing this or was it like on film?
I don't know. I don't remember if it was shot or not. I should ask the woman who shot it.
Wow. That's a big that's gonna do wonders for your ego, like probably for life. You're like, I made someone come.
I mean, that happens sometimes with girls in real life.
Oh,
like
okay.
when you meet girls and you're just like, that happens occasionally.
So you've made multiple girls come just from kissing them.
Yeah, but usually it's kind of on purpose. You're actually, you like the girl. This was on accident.
Just kissing, not like you're touching them at all. Like not like you have made more than one woman come just from kissing them.
Yeah, I wouldn't say all of them. I wouldn't say this is a usual thing. I wouldn't say this is like most.
This seems extremely rare.
There's lots of ways this can happen. Like a girl can.
You should do my wet spot,
have a moment.
Joe. I feel like you have a plethora of
the
advice.
wrist. The wrist is a good spot.
The wrist.
You can make women. Oh yeah.
I don't think I'm a wrist comer. I don't know. Unless you're literally putting $100 on my wrist, that might get me excited.
That might get $100. That's not much.
That doesn't take much.
You gotta get a little bit more than that. Let me try to
give me $40.
Yeah, I'm trying to fix the camera again. I think
it's all right. I kind of like this better. This is funny.
You like this better?
No, I mean like fix it if you can. But wow, Chris over here making people come from kissing, from touching their wrists.
Yeah, that was not what I came on.
Maybe you need to not be so conservative and get into porn. I think that's your future.
Yeah. I don't know if that's visually that appealing. I don't know if that's what people go watch. Oh yeah, I suppose everybody has everybody has these like weird things, right?
There's definitely a fantasy that like gays can turn straights. Like I'm sure it's a fantasy that like someone can turn like a conservative man like into a man slut, That's definitely a thing.
Well, actually, when I was single, I did used to think one good
Brandy's loving you.
That's good to see. I used to think it would be it's sort of like a good notch to carve in the bedpost if you could turn a lesbian straight. Like I used to think, okay, because I met several lesbians who were definitely not born attracted to women, right? Like I would meet these lesbian
party lesbians, yeah, the ones that are
not just that. Not just this was actually a more sinister thing. I went to this lesbian party once with a gay friend of mine. This guy was like, he wasn't out at the time, but he was gay, and he's like, let's go to this party. There's all these lesbians there. I'm like, okay, whatever. So we go to this back in Portland, Oregon. And so we go to this party, this lesbian party. I don't know why it was all lesbians, but whatever. It was all lesbians and us. And I'm not joking. Like every single couple was like this really butch masculine woman next to this like really timid, meek, pretty girl. And it almost seemed like the meek, timid girl was being like held hostage. I got the impression
you're not really a lesbian. Yeah.
Yeah. The way that I interpreted it, and I don't know if this is always right, but this seemed right, is that the nice girl had some kind of abusive male relationship. Something bad had happened to them in their life.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the lesbian, butch chick had said, "Oh, well, you should just be with women. We're better." And they're like, "Okay, I'll try it." And they kind of got locked into this situation. And I always felt like I want to rescue those girls. I was at the male rescuing impulse. Like, I got to take these girls away from this abusive relationship.
Like, is your wife a rescue? No.
Is your wife a rescue? Yeah, that's right. My wife is a rescue, actually. Yeah, I always tell people. Okay, this is a really weird dating advice.
I imagine she arrived in a box from Russia, and she's like, "Hello."
No, she was with another guy. She was with another guy. I had a girlfriend, and I met her on a set. On a movie or something like that, and I thought she was one of the main actors in the show. Turns out she was a background actress. And so I just went up to her and started talking to her, and she didn't speak English very well, and she was way younger than I thought, because I'm 17 years older than my wife. And when we were in because I was so fat.
Laughing because you told me like people think I'm trafficking this woman.
Yes,
she's younger.
That was the joke. So everybody kept saying, "Oh, Cruz, did airport security stop you for human trafficking?" Like, everybody kept making jokes like that when I was in
Everyone's
Vegas.
slipping like hotline phone numbers to your wife, and she's like, "I don't need this. We gotta
yes. Blink twice if you need help. But yeah, so because she looks very young, because she's 25, but she looks like she's probably 16.
But she acts like she's 40. Like she does.
Yeah,
she's a very grown ass woman vibes.
Yeah, when I initially saw her, I thought, "Oh God, that girl is perfect. She's gorgeous," And she had sort of like makeup that made her look older. I saw her from a distance, and then when I got up close to her, I thought, "Oh, this is not going to work." Like, this girl is way too young.
Your parents know you're here, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, I really did think, like, at first I thought, "Oh, she's like an under 18 like background actor," and I thought, but that can't be possible because she has to be 18. So we're sitting there talking, whatever. We kind of exchange information, but I didn't think it was going to go anywhere, actually. It's just weird who you end up falling in love with, She really wanted out of her relationship. So she kind of saw me as like, "Oh, this guy likes me. I have his contact information. I'm going to make him like me." So she would write me, and she'd send me pictures, kind of sexy pictures and stuff. And I'd be like, "Oh man, this girl's a little bit too young, but she's great," it was a weird situation. Because I don't know, like a couple of girls before her, it was like 35, and I think I was like 36 or something. And then there's, then I dated a girl who was 26, and then she was when I met her, she was 20. She was like, she was just too young. It was weird, but it ended up working out. And yeah, it is a little bit of a concern when you're with a girl that's that much younger than you, that people think you're some kind of a creep. And but yeah, whatever. You kind of have to just turn that stuff off and just.
Yeah, you're not a creep.
I pretend not to be anyway.
Quickly, I'm gonna get to these super chats from Steven Suarez. "I'm as white as Diego Boneta. I wish I was as white as Gael Garcia Bernal from his Y Tu Mama Tambien days with those pretty eyes." Okay.
I don't understand the white thing.
I don't understand it either, but
I don't understand the white thing. One guy I do this show called Mr. Peagan, which is a joke version of Mister Reagan.
Oh, and thank you,
where I act like a leftist.
Let me bring up your other channel, Mr. Peagan. Okay, keep talking.
Yeah, well, you're working. Mr. Peagan. So I realized that YouTube doesn't like conservatives, so my show was eventually going to be destroyed.
Yeah, when did you start getting heavily censored?
Actually, I started getting heavily censored right after the Gillette video.
Wow.
Right after my first video that blew up. And then this year it's been really bad. Like this year, I've gone from about 100,000 views a day, or a video per video, to about 20. So I get about 20. Yeah, so they've cut me in about a fifth of my views. And I'll tell you how you know you're being censored heavily is YouTube Analytics gives creators these analytics, so you can look at them. And one of the analytics is your subscribers and your unsubscribed views, right? So like, this is how many people viewed your video that were subscribed. This is how many people viewed your video that were unsubscribed. Now you want a lot of unsubscribed views because that'll grow your channel. And when you start your channel out, you get tons of unsubscribed views. But once you've established yourself, it's about 50-50, right? I think for most people. For me, in this year, my videos have been getting about 93% subscribed views. And so I'm getting almost no unsubscribed viewers, and the ones who are unsubscribed are probably regular viewers. They just haven't subscribed.
So the algorithm has taken you out of the possibility of like new viewers, basically.
I really can't grow my channel very well. It's very, very hard. I'm growing very slowly because YouTube basically decided we're not going to show your videos to anybody who doesn't already watch your videos, which is just like, like I said, I didn't start doing this channel because I wanted to like, express the crazy conspiracy theories that I read on 4chan or something. I'm not that kind of a Republican. I really do want to make the world a better place, and not for like, straight white men, for literally for everyone. If I disagree with a feminist, it's not because I hate women. It's because I think they're wrong about something, right? And that kind of open dialogue is, I think, what we need in the world.
And that's what real equality is, not like shying away from conversation just because, oh, that person's gay or black. It's like, oh, you got to walk on eggshells all the time. Like, that's not equality.
Yeah, and I like watching those interviews with you and the porn stars. I know it's like a weird thing to say. I mean, obviously not for the obvious reasons, but that too. I mean, they're very pretty women. They're very beautiful women.
Like, I watched some of your channel. God, I started with the porn star interviews.
Well, it was like all porn stars. I'm like, God, you know a lot of porn stars. Well, the most recent ones were mostly porn stars. But anyway, so I'm watching all these porn star interviews, and I realized, like, because I'm a Christian conservative, I have a kind of specific view about pornography that I do think it's bad for the society. But man, the women that you interview are so damn impressive. Like, they're such great, like, cool people. Mm-hmm. And it really is a good thing that you're doing, because I think, I don't know if at some point they're going to regret being in porn or anything like that, because that's the assumption people make. I think that's the assumption I would make. But they do seem so bright and have so much to offer intellectually, as well as what they do, for a living. And I think that is exactly what we need with the Republican and the Democrat dialogue. You need people with opposing views to be open-minded and to listen to each other. And right now we just have this ridiculous bifurcation where it's like the left will really only listen to themselves. I mean, people on the right, we can say both sides are guilty of this, but we're really not. They're really not. I mean, Republicans do want to have a dialogue with the left, and the left just calls us evil racists and won't have that dialogue. And but that's a perfect, like, to me, that's a perfect example of somebody, I wouldn't expect porn stars to be quite so brilliant, and yet the ones you interview anyway are very intelligent, very well-spoken, interesting people. And so that to me is a kind of a revelation. And I think that if leftists would listen to Republicans, they would have similar kind of revelations. Oh, you're not actually evil. You're not actually a racist. And maybe in some cases, Republicans could actually have revelations about what Democrats are thinking. Okay, you are actually just sympathetic to this person. That's why you think this, not because you're an idiot. I think some Democrats have good points and good reasons for the things that they believe, and they need to express that to Republicans, in an effective way. And right now we're just not having that dialogue. And with YouTube shutting down channels like mine, it just contributes to that bifurcation that puts that wall up, And so I thought, okay, so if YouTube's going to kill my channel, I'm no longer going to be able to make a living off of Mister Reagan. I've got to make new channels. So my big new channel is going to be Mr. Peagan, in which I talk like this because I'm a leftist, And so I do the whole show.
Hat.
It's kind of like Mr. It comes from there's this character on the show Bewitched, this actor from like the 1960s. I forget what is his name. Anyway, awesome guy, and very funny guy, gay, but he talked like that the whole time. So now I consider Mr. Peagan to be straight, and just people are just like,
he's a male feminist, I guess.
Yes, and he puts on this weird affected voice, this weird affectation. But yeah, he has very specific left-wing views, and he ridicules conservatives all the time. Yeah, this one he's saying how he doesn't understand why people want to pay him Hyundai prices for his trans Ferrari.
That's great.
Yeah, and just other stuff like that. Yeah.
That's great.
In the hard bigotry of high expectations, which is actually my favorite video I've ever made for Mr. Peagan. I make the point that because white people invented almost everything, black people just need to start. They need to stop using them out of protest. They're not allowed to use air. They should stop using air conditioning. Not allowed. I should say not allowed. They should stop using in protest. They should stop using air conditioning. They should stop, driving cars, flying in airplanes, and stop using the wheel. They should stop using the wheel.
Did a white guy invent
because it was
the
a
wheel?
white invention, and white people are all evil. So it's obviously like a
That's
joke
funny.
about how Democrats think that we need to cancel everything that has any kind of connection to the slave trade or anything like that. But like it's also this idea that we now teach this idea that white people are so bad historically. We're all these colonists and everything like that.
Yeah,
and
colonizers. Yeah,
colonists,
evil.
slave owners, all this kind of stuff, right? And we don't really acknowledge the contributions of white society. And the reason for that, I think, is natural, because we've never really taught white people invented the light bulb, white people invented the car, white people invented the wheel.
Because it wasn't racist, right?
Right. Well, we would say,
I gotta get credit for this light bulb.
Well, we would say Edison invented the light bulb.
Yeah.
If anything, we would say an American, or we would say like a German or something like that, right? But we wouldn't say white people, because we're not degenerate a-holes. I mean, kind of. Some people are, for sure. But for the most part, we were just like, as an individual, this guy was incredible. Like, I don't think, I'm better because somebody else figured out how to engineer a bridge well that was also my skin color.
Yeah. You think like, well, what have I done? What have I contributed to society?
Yeah, but Democrats will say, white people are all guilty of slavery. White people are all guilty of colonization. White people are, well, okay, if that's true, then I'm also guilty of inventing the car. I'm awesome. I win.
Right.
I killed Hitler personally.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Jimmy Carr has a great joke. He says, people always say a lot of bad stuff about Hitler. They always give him a lot of crap, but you got to give him one thing. He did kill Hitler. I thought that was good.
That's funny.
Yeah, that man's a genius. Genius stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
Have we hit some dead air? What's happening?
No.
This is awkward.
Sometimes we have a Zoom lag. Also, this is amazing. We have not talked about a single thing that I wanted to talk about with you, which is just shows how great the flow is. And
okay, well, ask me one question that was on your list so that we can get one in.
Okay. It really was more based on when you started getting censored, how you got into covering censorship. And you have a recent video on your Mister Reagan channel about the White House dictating censorship on social media, and how that's actually a good thing because of the Freedom of Information Act, or how it's they've actually sort of trapped themselves in a way. I always like when I see a video that gives me hope for the good guys winning ultimately.
I drifted for a second because I was thinking back about how awkward it was that I mentioned the whole kissing orgasm thing. I'm like,
no, that's great.
Why the hell did I bring that up? That's so embarrassing.
That's definitely gonna be a clip. No, that was probably a high point.
I'll tell you what, because you're thinking about the funny, weird things that have happened to you in Hollywood. That's kind of where my brain was going.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love these stories.
Oh man,
yeah.
No, and then the porn actors thing, and I just thought, that's a terrible. I can't believe I said that on your show.
No, it's great. And
this is going to come back to haunt me years later.
I'll give you credit is because you're wow, porn stars. I didn't know you were talking to so many, but what you've learned is porn stars fulfill this really unique niche where they're sort of default liberal, right? Because it's they have sex on camera. That's not a right
it's not a conservative.
Yeah, it's not a conservative way to live your life and make money, right? But they also are entrepreneurs, a lot of self-responsibility. They're small business owners, so it's they have all that responsibility. They make, and the successful ones make a ton of money, so it's they want to keep their money. And they also have this taste of the entertainment industry, Hollywood. So it's and the ones that I love are the ones that are super red pilled, that they've seen Hollywood. They know what the industry is like. They're kind of very street smart. So there's this interesting combination, and they can be their own spokesperson. So it's people can fall in love with their personality. And if they are smart and sharp and want to comment on society, it's even better. It's like they don't,
Mhm.
and they can self-produce OnlyFans, right? It's no longer just about these, these huge like porn studios.
Well, that may
doing
be
their content.
why I guess feminists have become sort of on the side of porn as opposed to against it, because it's less exploitive, I guess is the word. If it's something on a website that a woman's posting herself, as opposed to getting a girl in the on the casting couch and saying, "Oh, you're pretty, you should do this." We'll just keep saying telling porn stories all day long. I got into a car once, an Uber share, back when I was so poor I had to share Ubers with everybody. And so I would do this Uber share thing all the time. And one time a girl got in the car who I'm pretty sure was a porn actress. I didn't know at the time when she got in the car. She's a very pretty girl. She was with a guy when she got into the car, kind of skeezy looking guy. She gets to the car and we start talking. You sometimes talk to people in the Uber share thing. And before she got out of the car, we were going to like North Hollywood, like the valley. Up in the Hollywood Hills, they were dropping her off.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these mansions up there is where they film some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going up to the Hollywood Hills, and we're going over to the valley or wherever, that kind of whole area. And before she got in the car, I said something about her being a very pretty girl, right? It kind of in a sort of, I was just trying to be nice, really. I wasn't trying to get with her or anything.
You weren't trying to touch her wrist or anything.
No, I didn't do it. I didn't.
No.
I was literally just trying to be. I was trying to be sort of gentlemanly and nice. I said something about her being pretty, not even as a compliment, just as sort of like, it was obviously true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
she might not have known.
Yeah. Well, she knew. She definitely. I mean, I assumed she knew she was a pretty girl.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were just having a conversation. I said something about that, and she almost started crying in the car, and it was like the weirdest thing. And I'm like, are you okay? Whatever. She's just like, I don't know. Just people just don't say stuff like that to me. And then she got out of the car and she left. It was such a sad moment. Yeah. And I just thought, like, I don't know if that's like a good life for everybody. Definitely a good life for some people. They're making a lot of money. They control their life and stuff like that. But that's definitely a moment that I thought, like, some of these people need help to
for sure,
do something else with their life.
For the folks that are not cut out for it and who stay in it, it can be like spiritually taxing. For sure.
Well, I think anybody in any kind of career, anyone in any career in which, you're not appreciated and you're really kind of like, you feel used, I think is terrible. I guess maybe I just thought maybe in that industry it was worse. It's a more brutal form of exploitation, because a lot of jobs are exploitation, really. Actors are exploited.
Yeah, there were times where I'd be like, oh, I'd rather be doing porn than like literally in this internship, like retrieving coffee or like.
Most men, I think, would agree with you.
Yeah, I've had way more jobs where I felt like way more disrespected than be like, oh, I'd have to have sex on camera, big deal.
Yeah, that's true. No. I don't like the concept of the unpaid internship at all. To me, that's essentially slave labor. I think that should be outlawed. I've known a lot of people in the movie industry. They've done these unpaid internships. I used to do it. I've done it.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
And for me it was okay. And some people get a lot out of it, right? But I've also seen a lot of people just exploited, abused, and then answer the phone, right? And they're like yelled at, especially women. I had two bosses from Long Island, actually. They were really horrible people.
Long Island people love to yell at women. It's like part of our culture.
Yeah. Their secretary literally cried every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day.
Yeah, I've cried.
This is right out of college. I really didn't know what to do in that situation, so it was a bit awkward. I did tell them to stop yelling at the interns, and then I got fired. And that's a true story. That's story.
Great.
Because I was the office manager at the time, and they kept yelling at the interns, and the interns were sort of my responsibility. So I said, hey, if you're gonna yell at somebody, yell at me. I actually get paid. Like, they're just coming here for free. Like, don't yell at them. Wow,
you're like a true male feminist. Like, really just standing up for women since day one.
I guess.
Like a real hero. Yeah.
No, it's called, like, being a traditional, having something with traditional values. I don't think it's that weird, my life. I think, coming from Oregon, to me, I'm the most normal kind of person. And a lot of people ridicule this concept of the normie. The sort of like normal person who grew up like in the 1950s or something. It was very sort of like Americana and all that. And I didn't grow up in the 50s. Obviously, I grew up in the 80s. but I might as well have grown up in the 50s. I mean, my family was,
like an
I had a
old
very
soul.
good family. I was very lucky with my family. I look at
I
a lot of
Chris,
this.
like you're like you. I think if you were raised in an abusive household, you could have been a comedian right now. Like you're right there.
I
But
have
the thing is,
such
you had too
respect
much
for
love.
comedians.
You had too much love growing up, which is why you didn't pursue
I love
comedy.
comedy, and I have so much respect for comedians. I actually think comedians are underrated in terms of their contribution to society. I think that the need for people to laugh is highest when society is sort of in the worst state, or if you're in your own life, you're in a bad way, right? Like if somebody you love died or something, and comedians can totally change your day. You can be, you can just disappear into, the comedy, or like disappear. It's not really the word I'm looking for. You can kind of,
it's a way to lighten up. It's a way to,
yeah. I mean, how many people have wanted to kill themselves and they didn't because, they started watching, their favorite comedian and said, okay, life can kind of go on. I bet that's happened a million times. I mean, comedians just add value to the world, right? They increase the quality of life. And I think they're totally underrated as, and as well, if you start taking yourself seriously as a comedian, I think that's the death of your comedy.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so they can never appreciate themselves the way they should, I think, as well. And so society is never going to respect comedy in the same way, in the way they should, because the comedians can't respect themselves in the way they should. Because if they do, their comedy is going to suck.
True.
So,
yeah.
You got to kind of take yourself like a little bit lightly, I think. I don't know, maybe that's wrong, but that's kind of
no, you're right. You're so right. God, we're gonna have to do this again, Chris. We have so much more to talk about, and you're like obviously such a great guest. Tell people where they can find you and follow you, and what's coming up.
Okay, well, I can prattle on forever. Sorry, we did go on for a long time. I am on Mister Reagan, obviously YouTube channel. You should all watch that to understand what's going on with the world and how I think the FBI and Barack Obama is essentially controlling the federal government right now. But anyway, I won't give you the conspiracy theories, by the way, that you'll read on 4chan. I invent my own. I basically invent my own. So I'm on YouTube. That's my main thing. I'm on Twitter at Mister Reagan USA. But Mister Reagan, and if you want to see comedy stuff, watch Mr. Peagan. Mr. Peagan is my comedy version of Mr. Reagan. That's Mr. Peagan on YouTube. You can just look that up. But I don't have a lot of social media. I really just have my YouTube channel. I mean, my Twitter's there, but it's not very, I don't got like 20,000 subscribers or something.
That's not bad.
Twitter. Yeah, but it's not like you know what I think? I think that the different social media sites share their banned lists. Share their blacklists. Of course. These are the people that you want to suppress. And I think Mr. Reagan has been on all of them for a very long time. So it's hard for me to grow my Twitter. It's hard for me to grow my YouTube, and it's just tough, man. It's unhealthy as a society.
Yeah. It's bad, but it's like all we can do is shine a light on all the censorship bullshit, and
well, hopefully the federal government can regulate them. I know libertarians hate that idea, but when it comes to enabling the free speech of Americans, I think it's actually critical. I think we do need to regulate them.
Absolutely, yeah. They're just like on a power trip right now. It's wild. I think we're gonna look back at this time and laugh. That's my hope.
Maybe one day, hopefully.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, Chrissy. Well, it was good talking to you, and
you're a blast.
We'll hang out in Vegas again soon. Hopefully,
we will. We'll have to do this again sometime. Talk about more serious subjects, but this was perfect.
Talk about other ways in which I've given women orgasms.
Yes, maybe the ankle next time. We'll cover that.
I've done that too.
Oh God! All right. Goodbye.
All right. Talk to you later, Chrissy.
Bye, Chris. Bye.